Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of Shooting Stars Live. Very, very excited to bring you a very special guest. He's our first developer to come on the show and share his story and also go through the Shooting Stars Ultimate Challenge. Who am I talking about? None other than Tyrone Rodriguez, the founder of Nicholas, who's developed and published games like 1001 Spikes, Cave Story Plus, Castle in the Darkness, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and VVVVV. So without any further ado, Tyrone, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Ty. We have a little video. Where'd your video go, Ty? I lost you. Rip.
Am I dead? Am I gone?
No, you're not dead. You're kind of gone. There you are. Okay, well,
I'm back.
There he is, the legend himself, Tyrone. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Okay.
How's it going?
Thanks for having me. Good. Thank you very much.
So we're gonna open things up. I know for a lot of people, a lot of people associate with you with a lot of flagship titles, but I really wanted to bring you on Shooting Stars Live to talk about your story and how you grew as a developer and your road. And, you have a very unique path in how you got to where you are now and a lot of hard work. But before we get into that, we like to break the ice a little bit and talk about some trending topics that are specific to our guest. So first off, one of the topics that came up, being a very successful developer and publisher, a recent game came out called Stardew Valley. Are you familiar with it at all?
I haven't played it yet, no.
Okay. So it's an indie game that's it's in the vein of a Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing type it was developed and created by one individual, and it's had some massive success. And so really I wanted to ask you, when you see a project like that come out and have some early success, how does that affect you as a developer, and what does that show you about the industry?
I think it's this sort of phenomenon about it. It's not just it typically is great games and really really good game design or amazing games get this kind of attention, and I think it just comes down to the players. We as developers, a lot of times we don't give players enough credit for being able to say, okay, this is a great game, this isn't. But there's also a story involved with a lot of these. Like if you look at games like Cave Story, or you mentioned V, you mentioned games like Super Meat Boy. Some of these are one guy making these games. Super Meat Boy was two guys making it with Tommy and Ed. And there's just like I wouldn't say it's like an underdog, but I think there's something really special about games like this and Undertale where one guy or girl pours their heart out for 2, 3, 4, 5 years to make this really special game. And they put so much of themselves into this game that you end up with this really special experience by the time the game is done. You end up with this really amazing experience.
You had mentioned that some developers don't necessarily listen to, the players or, the base that they're trying to appeal to. What have you found out about throughout your development career? Where have you found that balance in listening to the players and also using your own intuition for the direction of a game?
I think it's really important to always take feedback, for good or for bad. Even if somebody's calling you a word that needs a lot of asterisks or whatever it is, or your game, there's value in it. First, it's really important as a developer to grow thick skin. If you really want to make games, you have to accept that you're not going to make everybody happy with the games you're making. Some people might like it, some people might hate it. It's very polarizing, especially with different genres you take and different kind of games you make. But in terms of what you can do as a developer, there's a lot of really great feedback. We've had, both in Cave Story and for 1001 Spikes and for The Binding of Isaac, we've had a large number of beta players, and we will listen to their feedback. And a lot of times they will come up with ideas and suggestions that we hadn't thought of, because we're so close to the project. It's right in our face that you just forget about these really basic things. There's a secret level in Cave Story called Hell or Bloodstained Sanctuary. And the beta testers played it and beat it. And then one of the beta testers suggested to Daisuke Maya, Pixel, said, could you make a stage just for us that's super tough and super amazing and super secret? And he listened, and it made the game better. It made it a much better experience. So I think that's one of the most important things is to be able to listen to that feedback and be able to choose what's the great feedback, what's the good feedback, and what feedback you should dismiss.
Okay. So you talk about focusing on feedback or taking in feedback with a game like Afterbirth that you guys released. Where do you guys look for feedback? Do you frequent a subreddit? Do you watch certain personalities play the game, or how do you, once a game is released? I know you said you get a lot of feedback during beta, but once it's released, where does your level of feedback monitoring, how does that set with you?
Oh, it's actually all of the above. Ed and I and the rest of the team, we frequent the Isaac subreddit, and we try to interact with the fans and give tidbits of information, but also try to say, hey, if somebody found a bug or a really crazy exploit, then let's try to fix that. And you'll get a few players who they might hide it. Like we had a case of actually it was a streamer who was in on the original beta for Rebirth, and he was actually hiding exploits that he was finding because he wanted to use them. And after that, it was like, okay, you probably shouldn't be in the beta anymore. But after release, yeah, we go on Reddit. We listen to the emails. If we get emails from players, we will read them and see what's going on. And we do watch a lot of the live streamers and say like, okay, what are they doing? Okay, there's an abuse with this. We should probably fix that because although it's an offline game, it you might have the perception that this is gonna make the game really fun. But if you play Doom, God mode is fun for only so much, and eventually you have to go back and play the normal game.
Right, right. Okay. You'd mentioned that as a developer, you have to have thick skin. Was there a point in time in your career early on where you didn't have thick skin and it developed, or was that just in your innate personality that you're able to withstand that sort of criticism?
I think I had to. I think it. I definitely had thinner skin when I started as a game developer, or at least being more in touch with fans and the public, because my background in the game industry is more sort of behind the corporate wall and being behind big companies or magazines where we didn't have as much interaction. And once you go independent and you're publishing your own games and you're developing your own games and you're directly interacting with your fans, your players, or ultimately your customers, the people that are keeping you in business, they're really passionate, which is awesome. But at the same time, sometimes they lack a filter, and they might not mean to be mean or say things, but little by little, you have to accept, okay, this is, they're not trying to necessarily give you a bad day. And maybe some are, but because of that, in both ways, you have to learn to say, like, okay, I don't know this person. I'm reading too much into this. And little by little, yeah, you have to develop the thicker skin. And it's helped a lot because now I feel comfortable interacting with fans and interacting with people on Twitter and Reddit because I want to just get to know them and I want to get to know what they have to say about the games.
Yeah, you definitely have a unique perspective and way you interact with fans, in particular, with your latest release and how you deal with that community. But taking a step back, is there anything you can remember from the first game you developed or released that kind of spun you in a way that said, all right, I need to have some thicker skin? Was there any comments or something that you took in on one of your first developed games that really stung, or that was there a moment that you remember that caused you to change or to become a little more thick-skinned?
I think so. One of the big ones actually goes all the way back to Cave Story, where the original game, the resolution on the original version of Cave Story was 320 by 240, so pretty small. And one of the things we wanted to do for the Wii version and ultimately for the Steam Cave Story Plus version was double or effectively quadruple the resolution of 640 by 480. And Daisuke and I and the rest of the team were working on, and at the time it was just three or four of us, and we were working on this art, and he was approving all the art, and we started releasing it publicly. And you get some fans, and fans hate change, and they say, "Oh, this looks terrible. I hate this. I'm going to run it in the old resolution." And the original creator of the game was sort of effectively art directing while we were doing all this art. And I thought, wow, they are really averse to change, and it's like it's right in your face, and like, oh, this is terrible pixel art. This is a bad idea, and that was a pretty good early lesson.
And then, so did you at some point did you say, okay, I'm getting this feedback that's not positive, but did you still have the vision, and did you fall back on your vision? Is that what kind of pushed you through it, or did you, like you said, did you just rely on the art direction of the original um, engineer of the game?
Yeah, it was a bit of both, where we had to step back and say like, okay, a lot of these people aren't trained in art, and some of us have been spending a lot of time, years of our life drawing and doing pixel art and looking at art. So we're just going to keep going because this is what we want to do. This is the right way to do it. And coincidentally, or Cave Story ended up helping the Binding of Isaac Rebirth because years later, we faced the same exact resistance on a much larger scale because the original version of Isaac was in Flash and it had Ed's what I would say sort of trademark kind of Flash, very sort of ink type of look. Sort of like very early on of like Castle Crashers and that era of the Behemoth. He has a very similar style. But we decided with the Binding of Isaac Rebirth to go straight up 16-bit pixel art, but have what we called like the 32-bit layer with the lighting and the smoke. And people saw this first pixel art and they were so resistant to it. But Ed thankfully Ed was really behind it and said like, "Oh no, this is the way I want to go. I trust you guys with the pixel art. This is going to be really awesome." And in hindsight, I mean, it was 100% the right decision because it's become its own version of Isaac in that sense, where Rebirth and Afterbirth really have this very unique look. Both it's a combination of pixel art with traditional pixel art along with more modern aesthetics.
Got it. Okay. Good. So it's good to know that even developers have feelings too, and that you're not this robot that's that. But it's nice to know that you look at that the feedback and take it into account because I think that's what separates you and your studio from some other studios out there, and I think it all ties together with such a rabid community. But I do want to tie into our next trending topic, and I just wanted to get your take on this because all the games you've developed are in a similar genre that don't have microtransactions, and you're starting to see a lot of AAA titles find ways to work microtransactions in a non-traditional way. And I just wanted to get your take on that as a developer and your view on microtransactions for what you do.
For us, I think at this point, we haven't found a good way to do it. And I'm not like explicitly opposed to microtransactions. They just have to be good. And if you ask, probably, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of independent developers or developers in general who have played, for example, Crossy Road or Pac-Man 256, I like that kind of microtransaction where it's a positive transaction where, hey, you don't need to buy this. Thank you for downloading the game. Thank you for, for enjoying it. If you want to enjoy it more, or if you want these power ups, or you want these characters, you can buy them. But we're not going to hound you about doing things like this. Where things bother me is where you get developers, or anybody who knows me knows I love Street Fighter, and I remember Street Fighter 4 coming out, and you would download like a costume pack or something, and the download I think on PS3 at the time was like 180K. So you're telling me I'm downloading all these costumes for 180, and it was clearly it's like, okay, you pre-planned to make all this stuff, and you're charging me for it. And I already paid $60, and you want me to pay another $30? So I think that's disingenuous. And I'm not saying this as a developer. I don't mean to speak ill about another developer or publisher as one, but I'm still very much a video game player. I play games as much as I have time for. I buy games on my PS4. I still buy games on my 3DS, on my Vita, on Steam, wherever I can get games. If there's a good game, I want to play it. That doesn't stop me. But the way that some publishers and developers are going in the direction of microtransactions can be offensive, but at the same time, like I said, I think that there's a good way to do it. There's a positive way to reinforce it to the player and say like, hey, here's this free game, or here's this game, and there happens to be this, and you can buy it or you don't have to, and keep playing the game. Please enjoy it.
Got it. And speaking of new developers, the last trending topic I wanted to ask you about was that you're starting to see, I guess, non-traditional people develop games, meaning people from outside the industry say, I'm going to create a game. And one of those people that recently made an announcement in the past month or so was Kanye West. What do you think about people that are outside of the industry, and I guess everyone at some point starts outside, saying, all right, I'm going to make a game. What is your reaction to that as someone that's been in the business for an extremely long, and it's been a long road for you?
Yeah, I would say Kanye West or anyone aside, I don't know them personally, so that would be the biggest issue. I saw a couple of tweets from him and people sharing those tweets, and if he's really a gamer, if he really plays games, and he was talking about like stuff on the Neo Geo and TurboGrafx, and if he really grew up playing games, then please come in and please make awesome games because, joking aside about his $53 million debt, he hopefully has a ton of money to make games, and if he plays games and he grew up playing games, he's already in a great position to start to understand what kind of games should be made. So I don't know if he's necessarily the best example that I would use in terms, but he could. I mean, like we don't know. I mean, he could be an amazing designer. You know, what does he say? He makes great stuff, or like he's yeah, and it's possible. So I think anybody coming outside, there's another developer we talked to, or I personally talked to, and he came from Hollywood production and from film school. And so he's applying everything he's learned from that into the game he's making, but at the same time he grew up playing like Quake and Doom. So he's making this really great, cool game that uses all these years that he has of sort of practice of game design practice from playing games, and he's applying the techniques that he's learned. So if Kanye puts in, you know, if he puts in $500,000, $1 million, $2 million into making games, hires the right people, and says like, I want to make this kind of game, please make it for me. I think that anybody who really loves games has the potential to make a game, but it's not something you can just do overnight and say like, oh, I'm gonna make a game and it's gonna be awesome. Like his first 10 games, 11 games might be terrible. And then you get to, you know, the 12th game, 13th game might be this amazing experience.
So hypothetically speaking, say he came to the Nicholas office and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I want you guys to make my first game." Would you sit down and have a meeting with him? Would you instantly take it? How would you go about um, dealing with that interview and deciding whether or not it would be a viable option for you guys to take on a project like that?
I would take the meeting. We would meet with them, and first, I honestly, it might sound silly, but we would see if we can gel as people and we get along, and it's the type of guy. Because when you commit to working with another developer, be it Studio Pixel, Terry Kavanagh, Edmund McMillan, Nicholas Nygren, whoever we worked with in the past, you're committing to like a relationship. You're saying, I'm going to work with you for 6 months. I'm going to work with you for a year, and I'm going to permanently continue to work with you as our games make money. So to have that would be a very important part of the decision making process, where we would meet Kanye or his people or whoever, and then we would start talking about what kind of games do you want to make? You know, what genre do you want to make? If he said, do you want to make, you know, turn-based microtransaction card games, we would probably not be the right developer. But if he said, hey, I want to make a roguelike overhead game like Ikari Warriors starring me and my wife. Well, that might be hilarious. That might be really awesome. You know, you just never know. So it would, like I said, it would depend on personalities, and it would depend on what kind of games he wanted to make. So if he's really a gamer and he grew up playing TurboGrafx and Neo Geo like he said he did, then hopefully he has pretty good taste in games.
Got it. All right.
I love closet gamers. I love closet gamers.
And speaking of closet gamers, it's well known that you're not a closet gamer and that you've played a lot of games in your time. But when you're not working, you know, because we know you're always working, you're hard at work. When you're not working, what games are you playing right now, and what games are you into right now?
I've been playing, actually, believe it or not, I've been taking a look at a lot of iOS. I've been looking at what developers are doing on iOS, and I remember playing some of the first iPhone games and thinking, oh, this is terrible. This is never going to be better than 3DS. This is never going to be better than a Vita or PS4 or Steam. And now I like looking at iOS because you're starting to see a lot of divergent ideas where people are using the touchscreen in the right way, where it's not just a D-pad. It's like, oh, you know, it's obviously the easy ones like an accelerometer with driving games, but you're seeing really unique ways to use the touchscreen. So mostly I spend a lot of time looking at how mobile games are being made and what people are playing. Whenever there's a Steam sale, I'm always sort of downloading games. Like I recently downloaded a game called Perfect Drift, and that was I love racing games and I love car games. So I always like to see what other people are doing or how they're handling physics and how they're handling making a racing game still stay current.
You mentioned that you've taken a look at a lot of iOS games. Are there any games that are installed on your phone right now that is your go-to game if you have like 10 minutes of downtime, or you know that you're into, that you enjoy playing, or are you looking at iOS games as like just a broad spectrum to see what's going on?
Mostly as a broad spectrum. The games I have been playing, or the most recent games that I bought and that aren't iOS, were I bought The Witness, and I made the mistake of trying to stream that my first time playing, and you know, tip for anybody who wants to stream a game like The Witness, unless you know, hopefully you're much smarter than I am, but it was very difficult to stream that game and try to solve the puzzles at the same time. So that one I'm very much looking forward to. And I think Jonathan Blow's he was looking for an iOS programmer. So I think that's going to be like the perfect definitive $40 iOS game. I played Street Fighter Five. I bought Street Fighter Five, and it has the distinction of being the first and only ever Steam game I've asked for a refund for.
Really?
Yeah, and it made me really sad. It
I,
made me super sad, that game.
being a Street Fighter fan, I've heard a lot of mixed things about it. What about it did you say, all right, I don't want it? Like, what was the tipping point for you?
I think it was various things. First, I'm seeing or we're also there. There's a shift in the last 5 years of a lot of Japanese developers insisting on using Unreal, and it's an engine, and it's an amazing engine. It's great for certain things, but I don't. If you look at Street Fighter 4 and you look at Street Fighter 5, the engine didn't make it better, but it had all these amazing requirements and specs for PC. So that was one issue right there. It's like, okay, on top of that, the art direction, it looks, for good or for bad, it looks like a Western game. And so little by little, it's taking away this really cool appeal that from playing Street Fighter 2, Super Turbo, and Champion Edition Hyper Fighting, and Alpha 1, 2, 3. It's kind of taking that away, and it's looking closer to, I dare I say, Mortal Kombat. So that was a big part of it. The gameplay is still very good, but it feels very, very incomplete. I mean, the requirements of having to log in and missing a whole single player mode, and now I'm going to sound like a stalwart Luddite fan, where it's missing a lot of the original characters. They took out Sagat, and their excuse is, oh, he was too strong, he was badly balanced. Well, that's your job, your designers, balance him, please. Instead, we have this Fang character who has a period after every letter. It feels very. I think Capcom fighting games feel very different, and the magic that they had in the late '90s and early 2000s it's going to be gone. And I think I'm expecting too much.
Got it. Wow. So you went through the Steam website and like refund. Did you get the refund?
I got the refund. Yeah,
Okay.
I got the refund, and I want to be clear. Like I played it for probably an hour or so, and I'm like, you know what, this is. I'll just. I'm sure I told someone else this, and I'm sure a year from now, a year and a half from now, when they work out all the kinks and they get everything in, it might be a really great game. But I don't want to buy a game that's missing, whatever characters are missing and modes are missing. It feels very, very incomplete. And I've told people Capcom probably did this because they're a Japanese company, and it looks very good on their financials when they release a game before the end of the year, their fiscal year.
Got it. Okay, so you return Street Fighter. You're playing The Witness. Is there anything else that you enjoy playing in your downtime, or is that about your capacity with running your studio and having a family and everything else that you do?
I've been playing more. We have probably like 7 or 8 prototypes, and I've been playing a lot of those. But as far as games that I can play with people on Steam, I started playing Super Meat Boy again because it's been over 5 years since I beat that, so I'm actually there's a long list of games that as I look back, I said, why haven't I beaten this game, or why did I stop playing this game? So I have to go through my. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. Let's see if Steam's open. Let me see my library. What I have. I don't have a very large Steam library compared to most people. I have 175 games, but
I'd imagine it's very curated though. Like if it's I just picture if something's in your Steam library, it's got to be top tier. Because I mean, if you're sending Street Fighter out, you bring it in, you send it out. There's no junk games in your Steam library.
well, it's just I think it comes down to like time, and I really want to. It sounds really different, but if I buy a game, I'm committing both money and time. But I feel like, okay, then I should play your game. I should. I decided that I'm gonna play your game, and I need to make the time to do it. So yeah, there's a lot of games in here. Like I bought Goddess a long time ago, and that was Peter Molyneux's game
Yeah.
because I'm a big Populous fan. And then that game kind of was a bit disappointing because it never actually went anywhere. I started going back to Axiom Verge,
Okay.
which is I love Metroid style games,
Yeah.
but that one also requires, I think, once you have to divide up your time picking between kids and game, I end up choosing my kids a lot. And for these games, when I want to play them like Axiom Verge or something, I just want tunnel vision. I want to be in the dark. I want the blinds out. I want everybody asleep. I want to be completely dark and just enjoy the game and nothing else exists.
Yeah. So you said sometimes you have to make a decision between kids and games, and being a great father. I know you defer a lot to kids. Are there any times when you select both and you
I
play
do.
games with your kids? And what games do you play with your kids?
I do. Well, the obvious stuff is, it must have been months they were asking me. I have two kids, and they were asking me, "Oh, let's play Mario Party 10, Mario Party 10." I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I going to play this? But I gave it a chance, and it's just a fun, silly board game. We just got Mario Tennis, which is effectively like a fancy version of Sega Tennis, and that's a lot of fun. The all the Nintendo first parties are sort of no-brainers, like playing Mario Kart. And as they get a little older and as they get better at games, it's really fun to play with them because I sort of tone it down a bit. I don't want to kick their ass every time we play, but it's really fun to see them get better at the games and better at the games. And right now they're playing Mario Land on their 3DS and they're trying to get through that. They recently I didn't actually play, but we streamed Journey. It must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. We live streamed Journey on my account, and they were sharing back and forth, taking turns. And I only helped them twice, and I didn't actually help them on what you would think I'd help them like it. I just helped them move the camera because they had to look up, and it was so satisfying. The idea of being able to share a game with these little clones and enjoy it together is actually so much more gratifying than sitting down and playing some of these games on my own. And I think that's where the challenge is. Like like I said, there's these almost 200 games that I have on my Steam library, and I'd rather share my time with them playing games than to just say, okay, I'm just going to play this on my own because it's really fun. It's a
Is,
lot of fun.
is there any games of your own that you've either developed or published that you allow them to play or have introduced them to?
They play everything. They've even played when they were younger. So my oldest is going to be 7, and number two is 5. And up until maybe last year, or the year before, I'd let them play Isaac
Okay.
because they were young enough where it's like they didn't know, oh, what's is that chocolate ice cream? What's that yellow stain on the ground? Whatever it is. And they got it. Now I kind of their mother prefers that I don't let them play Isaac, and I understand. But they do play. My son was playing Cave Story today, and during development, and they must have been really young because 1001 Spikes. It'll have been 2 years since it came out this June. So rewind 2.5 years ago, and my daughter, who was 5 or less than 5 at the time, she could actually get to World 2-1 or a stage 2-1 on her own.
That's pretty
So
impressive.
yeah, so I was like, yeah, good job. And she played Night Sky when we were doing the iOS version. So I actually get the most pleasure out of is seeing them play the games that we're making and play them during development. And I don't think that they know how fortunate they are right now that their dad makes games. We have a great team working together to make all these games. But I don't think they realize when they go into the office and they're talking to the programmers or talking to anybody there that they're talking to these people who are putting together these games that they're playing. It's just like, oh, there's Jeremy or there's Roar, and I'm gonna bother him and mash on his keyboard. And oops, there goes there goes some source code. Yeah.
Do they have a concept of what you do? I mean, do they like when you say, "Hey, Daddy developed this game"? Do they understand that, or
They say they do.
okay?
They say they do, and they kind of get it, and then they know which games are ours based when they see the blue logo.
Ah,
But
okay.
I don't know if they yet comprehend what it takes to make a game. I think when they think their dad makes a game, it means I'm talking to people all day on the computer. And then later on, maybe they'll come to a realization. Oh, okay. What do you have to? They'll probably start asking questions on how you make a game. But my oldest, my daughter, she started drawing character designs, and she said, "Oh, I want to make a game with you someday." So maybe she understands via art because she draws about an hour or two a day.
Oh wow.
So I think she's starting to understand some of the elements that go into making games.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool to hear. And speaking of, okay, so your kids are showing, at least your daughter's showing some interest in art and game design. But I want to talk about you. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up and kind of how your early life, as maybe a teenager or a young kid, developed into where you are now. What was a young Tyrone like?
Was it let's see, mid no early 90s, early 90s, going to school, and I had another friend named David, and we went to school, and of the entire school there was probably only maybe 3 or 4 of us who really loved video games at the time. I'm sure you remember him. Like there was a time when it was really nerdy to like games. You're like, what, you like games? Why didn't you go outside and play sports? Why are you such a nerd? And I remember, I'll never forget that feeling. Like I was in a very small school, and there was a lot of guys who played baseball and who played Pop Warner football and all this stuff, and I just wanted to watch cartoons and play video games. And so David, he was the other guy who liked games, and we ended up becoming very good friends. And we started, he'd come over to my house on the weekend, or I go to his, and we'd go, and there was a store in Buena Park, in Orange County, called Game Express, and they would buy, sell, and rent games and trade. So it was one of the first big deals. It was like, okay, I finished Two Crude Dudes on Sega Genesis. Now I'm going to trade it in and get something else. And obviously, you're 15, 16-year-old kid, you're getting ripped off on your trading values. But you could constantly just cycle through these games. So we started playing the games, and we read like EGM and VG and CE and all these magazines that are no longer around. And we thought, why don't we make our own magazine? Why don't we put together a magazine and put it together? And we, this wasn't like an epiphany that we had on our own. We would buy VG and Video Games and Computer Entertainment magazine every month, and there was a column in there by Arnie Katt and by Chris Bieniek, who the latter actually later became my boss at one of my first jobs. And he would review fanzines, and each time they would review a fanzine, it'd be like an image of the fanzine, a description, and then the address where you would mail $1 to. You would literally mail $1 to this kid in another part of the country, and they would send you their fanzine. And so we started doing that, and we ended up making friends, people who we still have, who are still in contact with. Chris Johnston, who's I think senior producer at Adult Swim Games. He started as a fanzine. A designer I know, he also started it with a fanzine. Chris Kohler from Wired, he had his own fanzine. So there was this whole group of us 30-something-year-olds who had our own fanzine, and I started doing my own with him, and we sent it out to all these game companies. We'd send it out to other people. We'd send it to the local game companies. Like at the time in Irvine, three of the sort of biggest companies were Atlas, Interplay, and Virgin Games. And so we started sending them to these companies, and sending them to specific individuals who we'd see interviewed in these magazines. So Atlas, we sent it to a fellow named Grady Hunt, who now he's like the senior VP of development at Sony Entertainment, and he's responsible for like The Last of Us and Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and all these great games. And we sent it to a few people at Virgin Interactive, including Tommy Tallarico and a few other people there, and Interplay as well. And so we started getting to know people. My brother eventually got a job, actually long before I did, at Virgin. And that was my segue into getting game and development, where I was actually, Grady actually first gave me a job at Atlas doing game evaluation. So I wasn't a game tester. I was a game evaluator. They would try to get all these games from Japan. I should probably rewind, but back in the early 90s, the time from when a game came out in Japan to when it released in the US, it was like a year to 2 years. So Atlas, at the time, a three-person company, they would buy all these games, or they would approach companies in Japan and say, send us your games, we're going to see if we want to publish them in the US. And then he'd say, hey, Tyrone, come over this week on Friday I need you for 4 hours or whatever, come after school, and then leave after you're done. And I would play these games, and I would tell them, okay, this one's good because of this, and it was sort of a segue from doing fanzine game reviews into this, which eventually led to me working into, after Virgin, I ended up working for Chris Bieniek for Tips and Tricks magazine.
And that was so I know that you first started working as a product evaluator for Atlas in '93. How old were you back then in '93, roughly? I mean, were you leaving high school to do this after school?
Yeah, I was doing after school. It was like an after school job. So I didn't work at the mall or work at McDonald's. I went to these game companies and these magazines after school. And I was 93. I was 15?
Okay.
Yeah.
What did since you're not involved with after school stuff like sports or anything, what was your family, what did your parents say about you doing this? Because for a kid to spend that kind of time playing games back then, like you said, is really kind of odd and very weird. It just wasn't widely as accepted as it is now. What kind of support did you get? Was it like, hey, you need to go outside, or was it like, hey, keep playing your games and just because you're behaving?
It was split between my mom and my dad. My mom was super supportive, and my dad grew up playing baseball, and my brother played baseball. They wanted me to play baseball. So to humor them, in high school, I did play 1 year.
Okay.
But I got stuck on a team full of 6 of the guys on our team ended up going to All-Stars. So it was like the worst team to play your first year of baseball. But even though my dad was sort of, I wouldn't say he wasn't supportive in the sense like he would say, go outside, get out of your room.
Yeah.
He saw me always drawing and he saw me always playing games. And then once I said, hey, I have this job in Irvine, or hey, I need to start going to Beverly Hills. Can you take me? He was very supportive that he saw me trying to do something with my time because it was still a job. I was still actually getting, I was for back then in the '90s. Imagine getting paid, $7, $8 an hour is like a ton of money to
To
get into
play
high school.
video games.
Yeah, to play video games. So every Friday, before I got a full time job with Tips and Tricks, every Friday he would drop me off, and I got permission from my school to leave the last period or whatever early. So we would
Wait,
leave.
wait. So you're getting paid to play video games. You're getting excused from high school to play video games.
Yeah.
You had
I'm
it
getting
figured out,
excused.
man.
Yeah, I'm getting excused, and I'm leaving. We're leaving Orange County like at 11 a.m. so I can get to Beverly Hills at 12. I got there, and then everybody goes to lunch. I'm playing games or doing screen captures or whatever I need to do, and then around 4:35 he comes and picks me up, and then we go back to Orange County, and then I play games all night.
But before you weren't playing games, you were working. You were getting paid. That was your
Yeah,
job,
that
right?
was my job. Yeah. But I would get the occasional from him. It's like, didn't you just weren't you just doing this at an office? And I said, no, that was work. I was getting paid. I was working for, like I said, like really, very, very smart guys that sort of that gave me pretty great, or great role models in terms of like what I wanted, what ended up, paying off in terms of what they did years later. Like I remember how they would help me do things at the magazine.
Yeah, it sounds like, so this company, Atlas, you said they would take Japanese games and decide with your feedback which was the best one that they
Yeah.
could go all in and publish. And it sounds like, that had a significant impact on what you do at Nicholas. I mean, I would imagine that you refer back to a lot of what you learned in '93, and do you use
Yeah.
that now?
Kind of. I mean, it was cool because it was such a small company and at the time such a small industry. They threw everything at us, and Dave Hunt was also working for them for part of the time. And I remember one day, Grady's like, here's this thing, and here's a bunch of wires. You have to cut up. You have to make a promotional VHS trailer for our meeting. And like, well, I've never done this. And then he was really polite about it. He's like, well, figure it out. You're a smart kid. Figure it out. And then we transitioned into later on. Which might have been a little bit too much at the time. I think I must have been 16 at the time. We localized a game called Crusader of Senti, which was the closest the Sega Genesis ever got to having Zelda. So, and it might have been easier now, but we got stacks, I mean, stacks this big of paper that were translated from Japanese and handwritten into English, and then we would scribble over them how to rewrite it, and then they would send it back to Japan.
And when you say localized, can you explain what that means for people that don't know?
Sure, sure. So the just translating from one language to another isn't the entirety of getting a game ready. So let's say a game's coming from Japan, which is what I have the most experience with. You'll get a game from Japan, and you will hire a translator or an in-house translator will take the Japanese and turn it into English. But even then, it's not done because you will have in Japanese you say hungry I am, or the equivalent of that, whereas you say here I am hungry. So you have to catch things like that in case the translator isn't completely perfect in English, in case they're very ESL. And also beyond that, you also have to change references. Like it's like you don't want the prince to go buy sushi from the item store in an RPG. You want him to get a hamburger, or you want him to get a chicken roast or whatever it is. So the localization is a very good word because you're localizing it for where you are located. You want to make it feel native, and you want to make it feel like, okay, this was written for English speakers who are in North America. This was written for English speakers who are in the UK. And it's very little nuances.
Got it. Okay. So your first job in the industry was a product evaluator with Atlas, and then you moved on to be a senior editor for Tips and Tricks magazine in like '96 to '99. What was that jump like for you? What was the time in between, and how did you get from Atlas to Tips and Tricks?
I was working for Atlas, and they didn't need a full time kid or whatever production monkey, whatever you want to call I was doing at the time. And my brother was already working at Virgin, and I had quite a few friends already at Virgin from just being in touch and him introducing me to people. So they were actually looking for a tester for testers.
Okay.
And Virgin hired me, and I was working. It was the worst possible shift. It was from 2 a.m. I think until like 9 a.m. because they were starting to really grow from all these games and hits they were making, but they physically didn't have enough space for testers. So So the normal testers would get there at 9 and leave at 6, and then they would have another break, and then you would get there. There would be another shift that was, I think, 5 to 2 or something, and then there was the super graveyard shift, which is the first one I got because it's like, okay, you're a new guy, you get the worst shift. I got that. Eventually switched over to the afternoon shift, and then I switched to the morning one, which was a mistake because I found I liked waking up late.
Do you remember the
But
first game you tested at Virgin, or one of the standout games you tested, either for being very a bad game or being a great game?
Command and Conquer, Legend of Corandia, Agile Warrior. Yeah, there were some actually really good games. I mean, it was really fun. I was surprised, like, what? I get to play this game?
And when you say test, is it how different is it from being a product evaluator, where it's like, all right, here's this smorgasbord of games, try them out for a couple hours, tell us what you think, versus, all right, you're on Command and Conquer. Like, are you sitting there trying to break things for 8 hours a day? I mean,
Oh
what was
yeah.
that like?
Oh, it was great. We found and you would log bugs as you found them, but effectively, you would be stuck on one game. And in the case of something like Command and Conquer, where it was really fun and it was a LAN game, you were just playing matches against three other guys for 8 hours. And I remember one of my favorite bugs in Command and Conquer was you would sell, I forget what, I think it's called Tomahawk Tower. It was the one that shot the missiles in the first one. You would sell it and you would cancel the sale very fast. There was like a specific keystroke, and then the tower would come back. But when you sold it, you got money, and and then the three guys would come out of the base. So you'd lose your money because the tower would come back, but then the three guys would come out. So you had like a free soldier generator. And there was another bug in the Legend of Corandia where this was related to Sony and specific to Macs. If you named any file in, I think, the early 90 Macs, like the 2C in that era, if you named it .sony, like a period Sony, it would permanently crash the whole operating system. And so I tried that in these games, and so Virgin ended up having to make like a global fix for all their games where if you put period Sony, it would change it to DOT Sony. So that you couldn't crash your machine. It wouldn't crash the game, it would crash the whole machine. But yeah, it was just playing these games, not a lot of feedback. Occasionally we'd give feedback to the developers or to the producers, and when you're a tester, you're sort of always the bearer of bad news. You're like, you imagine being like on a gold master and you're ready to submit it to like to the replication factory, and then this little tester says like, oh, it's crashing on these three machines, and I just pushed escape twice, and then I pushed enter, and they're not like, oh, thanks for saving us. It's like, great, the game's delayed.
So when you're delivering this bad news and you're going through, your life as a tester, like it's somewhere in the back of your head where you're like, I want to be the guy that's getting the bad news, that's pulling back the presses, or where, so you're working in the industry. Did you have a vision of what you wanted to do, or you just were happy where you were and progressing up in that
I
way?
wanted to I wanted to make games. I saw so the Virgin was pretty cool because you'd have like it was a pretty big office, and you'd have the testers combined with the producers combined with marketing and legal, and it was this kind of cylinder or square building that had everybody there. And then they also had believe it or not, this is pretty ahead of its time. They had like a house chef where you could buy subsidized breakfast,
Okay.
and the guy's job was just to make breakfast or lunch, so that they didn't want. I guess they didn't want the employees to leave the office, so that way they'd work longer. But the breakfast was cheap and it was good. And that was another building, maybe 100 yards across the way, and that's where they housed all the developers. That's where they were making like the Clive Barker game and Hoops, and Aladdin was made there, and The Lion King was made there, and all these really cool platforming games were made there. So I'd go over there, and you'd start just talking to coworkers like, oh, what department are you in, or what do you do? And so you get to know all these designers and artists from programmers. Like, oh, this is I want to find a way to do this. But it ended up not happening at Virgin because I wanted either a full time job with like benefits or like a permanent job, or I had to go back to school. And so I went back to school and started studying, of all things. I wanted to study architecture. I don't know why. Um, and
Where did you go to university at?
I was actually going to a junior college before I was going to transfer because I didn't pay enough attention in high school because I was playing games. And I wanted to transfer over to Long Beach.
Okay.
But I was going to Orange Coast College in Costa Mesa for I think 2 or 3 semesters, and I
Why
was still free.
why architecture though? I mean, you could have went like computer science, you could have went art. Like what was in your head at that point?
there were no courses for games. There were no game designer courses, no game artist courses. Programming was very stodgy old programming. Like it didn't seem like the right way to go. And I really enjoyed drawing and enjoyed drafting.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, if I learn how to render and I learn how to do CAD, maybe I could apply this somehow to something related to games. Um, if it had been now, obviously I'd probably go to Full Sail or some or to Japan or whatever some game school and try to make it work. Um, but started going to school at the time. I was still freelancing for Tips and Tricks magazine, so that was still my continuous income to pay for school. And Chris, he said, "Hey, we have an opening for associate editor. This must have been like at the end of '96 or the beginning of '97, and you'll have to come to Beverly Hills every day." And you'll be working for Larry Flint. But you get to work with me, you get to work on games, and that was sort of I don't want to say the dark side of it, but it's going from evaluator to tester and then going to a magazine. That's like the ultimate evaluator because you get to play everything. You're paid to play everything. I was paid to be good at games. I was writing strategy guides, so I instantly took the job and I explained to my parents. I said, "Hey, listen, people go to school to get a job. I just got offered a job. School will still be there. This job might not be there in 4 years, so I'm going to take this." And they're relatively pragmatic, and like, okay, that makes sense actually. So go do that, and then if you need to go back to school, I guess that's your loss. You will delay your life by, it's your decision. So I took a job, and I think I was making like $21,000 a year full time. So most of my money was going to gas.
And this is in
And
the late '90s. This is like,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Fortunately, it was like a dollar and change a gallon, and I was driving a Sentra, which does like 40 miles a gallon, so that helped. And then I ended up working with Chris for a few years and learned a lot there and had a ton of fun.
So you're working at Tips and Tricks. So you're writing, like, you're evaluating games. You remember one of your finer evaluations maybe one of your poorer ones, a game that you hated and a game that you loved evaluating?
I remember Ocarina of Time. That's sort of the game that broke me because I took 3 months to do that strategy guide, and it's one of my top probably five games in my top Zelda, and I remember spending so much time with it that I could actually play music on the ocarina.
Okay.
The ocarina in Zelda actually, if I remember, has like an octave and a half. So it's actually enough to learn. Like I learned how to play like the Donkey Kong theme and certain little songs. But that was the game. I loved doing that strategy guide, but it was such a big game um, that it kind of killed me. I did a strategy guide where I spelt out everything that was involved in like Bust a Groove, which is not the bubble game, but the dancing one. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember that one.
Vaguely.
Um, yeah, and I would just like my main thing was really trying to like completely get engrossed in the game to the point where back then I was writing almost like a little book for each game.
So the developers, they don't give you any sort of like bullet points or like any sort of
Nothing.
resource. You have to. Is that how they're done today? Like you don't give resources to people to create these guides?
Later on, as Prima and Brady started making more strategy guides versus magazines, they would start to do more of that, where they would say, okay, here's these resources, or here's how this level works, or here's a huge level map, or here's the list of all the achievements. But there was especially for the magazines, I think there was a concern that how soon do you want this magazine to blow out your game? Because you have this new hot game, Turok or Duke Nukem or whatever it is. There's value in the secret staying secret. And as a developer and as a publisher now, I can definitely see that. You don't want the game to be blown out the first day or the first week. You want it to last at least a week and a day. But yeah, but later on they started doing things where like, okay, here's here or here's a early build. The problem with early builds was that sometimes the games would change and the levels would actually change, so you'd have to be careful.
Yeah. Will you take us real quick what it was like how you approached it day by day when you're writing this guide for Ocarina of Time? Like, would you just focus on this square area of the map and write like, okay, here's where everything is? Like, how would you even go about dissecting an entire game like that with no additional resources?
I started with that game. I played it. The first opportunity I had, actually, I had the first time I played it. I played it at E3, and the experience blew my mind because Nintendo got us there an hour early, and they said, "Okay, you're gonna be here. You're gonna play this game, and then something special is gonna happen." And then so I'm playing the game, And the special thing that happened was that Mr. Miyamoto walked up and showed me how to play the game. Um, and but the next time I had to play it
Wait,
was
wait. How did you react to that? Did you like freak
I was
out?
I was totally starstruck. That was I think the only time in my life that I was actually really starstruck. Where he said, "Can I please show you how to play?" And very limited English, and I said, "Sure." And he showed me. I think he showed me how to do the move that ended up getting removed from the game, which was the light beam. Which I don't know if you remember videos of Ocarina of Time. There's a beam that Link could shoot out that ended up getting taken out. And so he shows me how to do this, and he's like, "Here's how to jump." At the time, I think you could jump in the game, and it just like that stuck with me. And the next time I had a chance to play the game was at a Nintendo Summit in Redmond. And so while everybody else was enjoying the game, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is the first time I'm playing this game. It's pretty complete. I better start making a mental note of everything. So the first time I play it, while everybody else from Game Informer and EGM and GamePro, they're just kind of enjoying the experience. I'm thinking like, okay, there's this area, there's this area, there's this area. Finally, we had a chance to play the game at the office, and what I had to do was, I had back in that time, Nintendo would literally, we called them the Iron Maiden. They would have a game console, they would have a game in it, and there was a metal strip attached to the game, so you could not take the game out of the machine. And there would be a guy, he's like, "Hey, I'm from Team Nintendo." And he would just sit down. He's like, "I'm going to be here for the next 2 days." And he would just sit there and watch you play.
What, like for security reasons or just to gain feed, like just so you wouldn't take the
Well,
game up?
just so you wouldn't take the game. They were so worried about piracy back then that when you got a 3DS, or not a 3DS, I guess when you got a Game Boy at the time, the Game Boy might have a Nintendo game, and they built these custom welded pieces of metal onto the Game Boy. So you were playing them, these little Iron Maidens, and you couldn't take the game out. So I had 2 days to try to beat Ocarina of Time, and it's been so long. I think I almost beat Ganon. I got to the end, but I got enough where I was playing, I was writing. One of the other editors was helping me take notes because we had a limited amount of time. So I said, "You need to sit down and you need to just take all these notes for me." And we were just taking constant footage of the game so I could go back and look at the footage of the game. So we were actually capturing footage back in 97
Like with a
or 98.
camcorder, or was it like tied into like a RGB on a
Oh,
PC?
we had a super really cool setup for arcade games and then for console games. And we had this machine, this video card that would capture, and it would capture like at 30 frames a second, and then you'd have to deinterlace it afterwards and do all this stuff. But at least you had the footage.
Yeah.
And keep in mind these are computers that have like megs, not gigs. So you'd have to go through the footage. And that's why we split up the guide, where it's like, okay, we're just going to split up the guide into three pieces so that we can cover everything. And it was just, as I said, I had done a ton of guides up until that point, but that was the one that killed me because it was such a big game, and to have to beat it in 2 days was. And the poor
With
guy
a
from
guy
Nintendo,
sitting next to you the
he
entire.
can't go to his hotel until you go home. So I ended up driving these guys down to the hotels in Beverly Hills or going to dinner with them pretty regularly when they would come visit because they were just stuck there.
That's everything from the Iron Maiden to someone sitting next to you. I mean, it sounds like a completely different world back then.
Oh yeah, it was so. I mean, it was it, and there were times like best example of how different it was. The first version of Photoshop, we had to use Photoshop heavily back then. The first version of Photoshop I used did not even have layers. So
What?
yeah, it didn't have layers. So we were like making magic work. Like we had one of the world's biggest arcade distributors, probably maybe 2 miles from our office. I think I recall it was C.A. Robinson's, and Chris had a really good relationship with them, and they made this black box. That's the only thing I could call it, and like you couldn't see inside of it, but these wires were coming out, and then there was 3 wires. Actually, maybe it was 4 wires. One for ground. It was like red, green, blue, and they taught us how to plug it into the back of a CRT monitor on an arcade machine to tap the footage.
Ah.
And then the other part would go plug in, and you plug it into like a VCR or something to record the footage. So you had this really crazy setup, and that's I used that machine to fly up to Capcom for Street Fighter Alpha 2 to capture it, and it wasn't working. We had to use paper clips to make it work. So it was like you just found ways to make things work back in that time.
That's crazy. Even then, that you realize the importance of capturing the footage. Well, I can't imagine that was standard practice in the industry to do that. At least from sounds like the way that you're using paper clips to capture stuff.
Yeah, some of the other magazines, like I eventually went to go work for GameFan, and they had, even before I got there, they had an amazing, I don't know how, but they had an amazing capture system. But the other magazines had the luxury where back in that era, all the Sega and Nintendo, they would send you slides, so you'd have to put them on a drum scanner, but they didn't need screenshots to the detail that we needed. Like if I was doing a strategy guide on Street Fighter Alpha and I wanted to show you how to do like a basic like roundhouse low forward fireball combo, I'd have to have a screenshot for every one. Whereas if EGM or GamePro was doing a preview, they're just like, okay, find a cool screenshot sent in by Capcom. Okay, yep, this one looks good. Put it in the layout.
Yeah, so you'd have to go through and pull those images off your like slow. What was the? I'm trying to think what the megahertz were back then. I mean, the processing speed were they?
So that must have been like 486 or the beginning of Pentium
Yeah,
era.
Pentium, yeah.
So it's like if you were lucky, you'd get a DX. So yeah, it was quite a totally different experience.
Well, cool. So, all right. So you go from working at Tips and Tricks to becoming, I know I'm jumping maybe a half step to becoming the editor in chief in IGN. How does that happen? And I know I'm glossing over it, but I want to talk about your time at IGN. But how do you
Yeah.
make the jump from, designing these strategy guides in a very intense way to becoming, an editor of one of the most well-known, gaming publications?
Uh, I have to rewind a little bit. Like
Yeah.
my dad, he sort of instilled in my brother and I. He sort of instilled a love for cars. He had a 55 Fairlane with a Fireball V8, and so we always loved cars. And I really grew up loving cars. And now I rewind and I think I love cars and automotive partially because of Transformers.
Hmm.
I really loved Transformers G1 when I grew up. So I always liked cars. It was like, cars and games, and I really love games. And I had just finished up doing some development at a studio that's no longer on called Papaya Studio on this really terrible sort of Tony Hawk ripoff. It was like scooters doing like skate tricks. And I wrapped up doing that. And IGN was looking for an editor for its newly launched cars section.
Okay.
So it's going to be cars and games, like a hybrid. And usually, car people don't like games, and game people don't like cars. It's a very rare combination. So I went to meet with Per Schneider and with Stephen Horn, and they were looking for somebody who knew games and who also knew cars. And that was effectively it. They interviewed a couple other people, but I think it was the same problems. Like, oh, you know cars, but you don't know games, or you don't know. And then I just started. I think I started probably like a week or two after the interview, and just started running the channel and started doing a ton of writing a bunch of stuff about car shows and cars, and segueing into also things that game guys would want to hear about, like covering like Gran Turismo. Like we covered a lot of the rumors about Gran Turismo and leaks and unused data in some of the Gran Turismo discs. I had a contact over in France, really cool guy, and he somehow found on the PlayStation disc how to like take the discs apart and find the developers. A lot of times we leave data in the games just because it's easier to leave it in than take it out. And so I do stuff like that. We started doing interviews. There was a game called Street Racing Syndicate by Namco. And it was one of the first games where you would race and you could also have a girlfriend. It was very much inspired by Fast and the Furious. And so I had to start interviewing the models. And so I started going to car shows.
You
I
had to
had
start.
to, yeah, I had to. Well, the funny part is that serendipitous event of me, I think Street Racing Syndicate had like 10 real import models, like Aiko Tanaka, and I think one of them was called like Tila Tequila now. But she was in the game. And so I interviewed them, and then we had a photographer there to do photography. And those were, of everything we did, those were the most popular stories that led to IGN doing like a babes.ign.com channel. So and then eventually I started segueing more into doing more car game reviews and covering things that were complementary to each other. But it was a lot of fun because IGN, our LA office was one, two, three, four, five, six of us. So it was a tiny office with a well-backed company. So it was like having your own little frat.
So it's kind of like you said, like very serendipitous. It's the perfect melding of your background in cars and gaming, and then but I mean that seems fairly random. I mean, would you only write about games that had to do with cars, or would you write about other games as well, or were you specifically told to stay in this lane Terrible pun intended.
I would, well, I didn't really mind writing about cars because every week I would get a new car.
Like
So the
you would get a new car to drive?
I'd get a new car to drive. I would
What?
fly. I would go to racing schools. I mean, I went to skip bar, like tons of racing schools. I flew to Japan to, like, so there was. I mean, it was pretty amazingly fun. So like, I had an NSX for a week and a Corvette for a week, and
What was
like
the coolest car
every
you've ever got to drive or race? Or your favorite car?
favorite car to ride. I think the favorite car to ride in. There's a red Nissan Skyline GTR called the Xanavi
Hmm.
in Gran Turismo, and it's a real car from Japan. And I didn't get to drive it, but I got a ride along with the driver who drove professionally for that, and that was at Motegi in Japan, and that was pretty incredible. There's a car called the Radical, which is like this tiny little open top car, and it uses I think it uses a Gixxer motor in it, like a motorcycle motor, and it's just like constantly shifting and shifting and shifting. So there were so many cars. Like I was able to take the newest GTR on the track when it was launching at a track in Reno, and I was just like just full license to step and beat the crap out of this car. Just don't kill yourself, and more importantly, don't hurt the car.
So
uh,
if I were to roll up to the Rodriguez residence right now and open the garage, is there Tyrone's dream car in there, or is that somewhere down the road? Do you have a dream car?
I have my dream car. Yeah, yeah, I have mine. Mine's keeping me company outside.
Do you want to share what it is, or do you want to keep that under wraps?
Um, I'll let people guess. I think it's more fun. I think it's more fun for people to guess. I don't want them to know that my dream car is a Pinto. No, but yeah, they can. It's I'll just tell them. I'll just give you the hints. The engine is in the wrong place to what most people think
Okay.
it should be. So that's a good start.
Okay.
But yeah, it was fun at IGN. Like they didn't stop me from writing about games, but they had so many game writers that it was one of these things where okay, finish your car stuff, and you obviously know games. And when you have time, and if you want to, yeah, you can review games. So I got to review stuff like Ikaruga, which is my favorite shooter, and
That,
ignore that sound. That's the sound.
that's Tyrone's 18 car garage opening up right there.
Yeah, it takes a while. My butler is just finished cleaning the cars, so he's bringing them in
do,
right now.
do you have a personalized license plate?
Do I have a personalized
Like, does
license?
it say like
Oh no,
Nicholas or
no, I
something?
haven't hit I haven't hit that douche level yet. I
Okay,
think I'm
I did.
close.
I wasn't
I'm getting
inferring that you were. I just was wondering if you
I'm
had
getting
some.
I'm getting close. Yeah, I'm getting close. So I just haven't found anything good. Like
Okay.
and all the good ones are taken. Like my brother wanted to put on his car. He wanted to put Rodzilla, but that one's taken. So but eventually I'll find something something worth taking up a plate
Okay.
for.
Okay. So we go from writing about cars and car games to then you jump to Nintendo as PR. Did I miss something in between there?
That's it's been so. I think that sounds right. Yes. So
Okay.
that was pre Wii and Fatty DS era where I ended up doing moving into back into PR. And I had done a little bit years prior just to try. I wanted to try it. There was a good opportunity to work for HP years prior to do PR in a reviews lab.
Hmm.
And I always liked the idea of like technical evaluation. So when I went to go work for Nintendo's PR, it's just like, okay, who doesn't want to find a way to work for Nintendo in some capacity, to be so close to this amazing company that has given us all collectively so much pleasure.
So okay, so you worked there, I believe, in PR for 9 months. What was your primary role? What did you work on specific titles, or what was your time like at Nintendo?
I was the main contact for what you'd say sort of what they call enthusiast
Okay.
media. So the IGNs, GameSpot, the Games Radar, everything that predominantly I guess the field that I came from was what I was supposed to cover, and I was also supposed to be the know-it-all, where I was supposed to be very very close to Nintendo's treehouse and to all their internal people to get to know all their games and inform my team to say, okay, here's what's cool about this game. Here's what makes this game great. Here's something that might not be so great about this game that you need to know about if people ask. So yeah, it was pretty cool because I was still in touch with people I really liked in enthusiast media, but at the same time, I got to play all these games before they were out. I think I might be one of the first people outside of Nintendo who had a Wii because I flew up to Nintendo before the Wii was out. It must have been like 2 or 3 weeks before the Wii was out. I flew up to Nintendo and we had to get special approval for this to take out a Wii.
Hmm.
And we took a Wii, and then I showed Jack Black that evening how to play Wii tennis.
Just randomly, it's just like,
Well, the other my sort of my teammates had set up some kind of promotional opportunity for he. I guess he plays games when he's traveling, but he was also happened to be in Hollywood that weekend for something else. And I think it was UGO was trying to do some kind of cross promotion with him for
mhm.
an interview. So they're like, "Hey, how about we do an interview with you and you get to play the Wii before it comes out?" And so he was a really cool normal dude, just nice normal dude. And he's like, "Okay, how do I play this?" I'm like, "Okay, you do this and this," and he's like, "That's it." And I said, "Yeah, that's it." He's like, "Okay, let's play." So
Was there any titles that you wrapped or worked the PR on that didn't see the light of day, or that was that may have been shrouded in some secrecy that never made it, or was there what was the most, I guess, I don't want to say iconic, but maybe controversial title that you covered with your time at Nintendo?
back then they weren't too much full of controversy, but I did get to play. I was able to um, play through and kind of really experience Twilight Princess even before it was out.
Okay.
So I was able to play it on the GameCube and then play it on the Wii. And there were I think there's been rumors, or I don't know if they've been um, confirmed, but that game really started off as a GameCube version, and then they somehow figured out, obviously through planning, oh, this is going to be bad timing. We should put this on the Wii, and then they ended up putting it on the Wii.
What would have been something you said that, it was your job, working so closely to highlight, hey, these are the great things about this game, and then here's something that isn't so great. What was something that we might be surprised about that wasn't so great about, maybe a popular title that you kind of had to, like, coach people on, more or less? Is there anything that stands out?
There were a few things like with Twilight Princess, for example. If I remember I had to tell the team that the games were mirrored and why they were mirrored. Where Link is usually left-handed, and then for whatever reason they made I think they made him right-handed in the Wii version because 90% of people are right-handed and they have to hold the Wii remote on the right hand. So there were little details like that to make sure. Even simple stuff like, oh, you know what's this green, red, and blue cable? Where up until that point, component, the RGB wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of education for the team to, for example, like, oh, the screen's yellow on the fat. I don't know if you remember, there was I don't want to call it controversy, but some of the screens on the DS, the DS at the time, yeah, the DS, the top screen and the bottom screen actually had a different white balance, or like it would look more yellow, or they would get yellow over time.
Hmm.
So there were things that where it was almost like crisis communication, where you'd have to say like, okay, this isn't, we don't have control over this, but you need to be aware that this is a thing. So if somebody tells you, don't ignorantly say like, no, that doesn't happen. They're both, it's perfectly fine.
What would you say? We're aware of the situation, and there's nothing we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
do.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I just remembered which one the worst controversy was when I was there. It was the Wii remote strap.
Everyone knows about that.
Yeah, and we showed it to them ahead of time. It's like, hey, look, this breaks. And like, oh, this is no problem. And so they had to. I've never seen a big company work this fast, and they made a new strap that was super strong that you couldn't. You'd probably hurt your fingers before you'd rip it. And they made what I call the Wii remote condom, where it was this weird clear plastic thing. So if you chucked it at the TV, hopefully it would prevent the TV from breaking. And then a more minor one was with what's the game called? Is it Brain Age? The game where you the Mr. Iwata's game where you would talk into the Wii or into the DS,
I don't remember.
and it would show the color, like it would show the word red, but the color was blue. Or it would show the word yellow and the color would be red. And so you'd have to say, if I recall, you'd have to say the color that you saw, not the word. And there was the weirdest thing with because the game was made in Japan, they had consumer complaints, and some of the media even reported it, where you couldn't say blue, you had to say brew, because Japanese people can't say blue.
And then
And this is a true thing. So people would say like, I'm saying blue and nothing is happening. I'm saying blue and nothing is happening, and it was a known issue that you had to say brew.
so how did you communicate that to people in the United States or the outlets that dealt with you? Like, would you say like exactly what you told us?
Yeah, we would just, I mean, we would just explain that the game was developed in Japan and that there's local nuances to speaking languages. So and it was out of our control, unfortunately. Fortunately, it didn't happen now. I think now it would be a big issue.
Yeah.
But in 2006 or whenever it was a much less issue.
Got it. All
Yeah.
right, so from your time at Nintendo, and you spent about 9 months from my research, you spent about 9 months at
Yeah.
Nintendo, and then we're getting close to '07, where you decided, hey, see you later, Nintendo. I'm gonna go start my own thing. How does that happen to go from explaining people how to say blue in an appropriate way to get the game to function to starting your own thing? Like, how does that jump happen in your mind, and then how do you take action on it?
I think I got too close to this really amazing company. So it was like, you know what? This is it. And by that time, I was either married or very close to married. And I told my now wife, I said, "Hey, we're pretty young. We don't have kids. I would really like to try this. And if I fail, I can always get a job." But my wife is Japanese, and she didn't understand the concept. And their culture is very different than ours, and it's changing a little bit. But in Japanese culture, you will get a job when you're in your early 20s, and you will die with that job. Most likely, you will die having the same job, same company, for 40 years.
Okay.
And so the concept of leaving a perfectly good job is so foreign. And she said, "Well, okay, well, I know your culture here is different, and if you say you can get a new job, I trust you, and it sounds like you really want to do this." So she didn't, she accepted that I wanted to do that, and um, I started with contract design and development to sort of pre-fund the company, going back to and talking to a lot of my old contacts and people I had worked with, and doing everything from web UI design and consulting, video design. I started doing consulting for Konami as an external designer to help them make mobile games before iOS came out.
There was a certain
And
mobile game that you worked on, wasn't there?
yeah, I know, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we actually that's the strange. I don't know if you've ever told your viewers that's the weirdest roundabout way of meeting you.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. Tell people that don't know what mobile game you developed for. It was for Konami, right?
It was for Konami,
Yeah,
and
so bizarre.
one of their directors at the time got the license for a TV show called Big Brother, and I don't watch TV, and I hadn't heard of the show, but okay, I'll do this game, and we'll get our artists together. And we had a few of us who are already working together, and I started doing research on the show. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go through all these episodes, and I watched your season coincidentally.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Because
lot of seasons to Big Brother, and it just so happened the one that Konami tapped you on the shoulder for just happened to
yeah,
be that season. So you're forced to
yeah.
watch 30 hours of bad reality television and start to
No, it was
question your
good. It was
existence of I
good.
should have stayed with Nintendo.
You no, it was because it was a pretty good challenge. It was how do we turn this reality show into a semi-enjoyable game? Because there's nothing wrong with reality TV if you like reality TV, but the challenge to transition from reality show, like how do you make it into a game? And there's certain shows that would work. Like if you look at like Gordon Ramsay, that's pretty easy. It's just like it's like restaurant management. But with Big Brother, okay, you have all these people and they're all in a house, and you're trying to, you know, get the people you don't want in the house out of the house, and you're trying to win the prize. So fortunately, Big Brother had all those mini games.
Yeah.
And the interaction between all of you turned it into a thing. So we actually, before I knew you, we pixelated your face, and you were in a game.
I'm sorry you had to do that. Probably the
Yeah.
ugliest character you ever had to create.
No, it was great. Yeah, it was great. It was great. You could actually, yeah, we even had a little program where because we had like big, medium, and small, and so you could put each person's body, and even before um, in pre-development, we accidentally you could put like a guy's head on a woman's body and vice versa. So we were having, but it was a fun thing because I think at the end of it, it was as good of a game as could have been with the budget and time. Given the subject matter, because we really focused on all these mini games and
Given
on
the
the
subject.
interaction. Yeah, it was like if you said like, oh, here's a reality racing game where people jump off a cliff. Well, that's no brainer. People just blow up. But it was cool because we ended up studying like what you did and what everybody else on the show did and how you were playing each other and how you were. So we had actually little meters on. Oh, we at the beginning of each game, each little AI didn't trust you. And then by the end of the game, you could build up trust and dislike. You had like animosity and all these things like out of like an RPG that the player wouldn't see. And you were trying to get these people on your side, and then you were trying to stab them in the back.
Yeah, Tyrone had sent me the files where we had joked back and forth and say like, because I never played it, I didn't even know about it, and you dug up the files, and at some point we'll figure out how to get that up and
Yeah,
running.
we've got to figure out how to get that running. It's like an old Java file, so I'll see if I can get it running, or we can you can stream it sometime.
All right, so you go from doing some consulting work, and I'm guessing that's how you started to generate some of your early revenue, tapping into some of your contacts, and then at what point did you like, all right, I'm gonna build this company, I'm gonna start this company, and then what did you do once you got all these contracts coming in that you're physically doing the work? At what point you're like, okay, I'm gonna build this into a development slash publishing company?
It sort of started to happen organically because somebody had recommended, oh, well, you're starting to get into this again. Why don't you? There's this really cool game. Why don't you find more people to play it? And people recommend, coming from media and coming from evaluation, people are always saying like, oh, there's this really great game, you should try it. So I don't take a lot of people seriously. But this guy kept saying, oh, play Cave Story. And then I played Cave Story, and it was pretty magic. Like this is less than 2 years after it's been out. I'm thinking, wow, this game is really cool. And I contact Pixel, and again, thanks to my wife being fluent in Japanese, I would write emails in English. She would translate them to me, for me into Japanese, and for probably 3 to 6 months, Pixel and I were communicating that way. And ultimately, he's like, "Oh yeah, this is a really good idea. We should, if you think you can do it, let's do it." And
What is that idea?
we
You're like, what is the idea so you can share with people listening? Like, so you're going back and forth for 3 months. What do you slowly? Because I'm guessing the first email you didn't say exactly what you wanted. What were you slowly pitching to him as you developed this relationship over email?
Cave Story on mobile phones. It was the worst possible idea, but it was this really cool game. And at the time, mobile phones were the closest thing to being ubiquitous in terms of everybody having access to a phone and being able to play. But thanks to timing, Nintendo announced WiiWare and PSN was starting to happen. So we completely abandoned the idea of a Cave Story mobile version.
Was there any
Because
development done on the mobile version?
no,
Okay.
fortunately there wasn't. There
Okay.
was sort of the pre-development of getting ready and figuring this all out.
Hmm.
And we decided, okay, you know what, we're going to approach Nintendo. They just announced WiiWare. At the time, the guy there, who you may or may not know the name, Dan Edelman, he was the WiiWare guy. He's the one that started it. He had come from Microsoft, and now he's sort of a quasi-agent business manager for games like Axiom Verge and Chasm.
Okay.
And I approached him about Cave Story, and we had another game called Night Sky. Um, and I showed him both games, and he was really interested in Night Sky because it's a very pretty game. You've got the really black backgrounds and the pretty gradients and the really beautiful music. And he's like, "Oh, okay, this is cool, but Cave Story's cool, but you should definitely put Night Sky on the Wii." And that's how it started. Literally that's how we started as a sort of a new developer and a new publisher, bringing Cave Story over to Wii, and then eventually we ported it to DSi the same year and Steam the same year because we didn't have the tech in terms of our own solid or mature engine at the time, and we also didn't have enough people.
Hmm.
I mean, now we have more than half a dozen programmers, so porting to multiple consoles simultaneously, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's very straightforward because we have a good engine and we have very smart people. So it's just a matter of scheduling and figuring out how things work.
Got it. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. So that was kind of your first. You kind of glossed over Night Sky a little bit because can you tell me a quick backstory on that and how that came about?
Yeah, we approached or we were introduced to by a mutual friend to Nicholas Nygren,
Hmm.
who since then he did Night Sky, but he did, I believe he was a designer on Affordable Space Battles, and he did Knit stories. Really super talented at everything. This is another guy that does everything, does artwork, does music, does design. He taught himself C# just so he could do Unity all on his own. So super genius level, really humble, really nice guy. And at the time, he was working with Chris Schlarb on Night Sky, which at the time it was actually called Night Game. That was a prototype, and it was going to be this beautiful experience, and it was going to be like 5 to 10 minutes. And he let me play the prototype, and I thought, you can't let this be 5 to 10 minutes. It's such a waste of a beautiful concept. Let's let me put money into this. Let's use our developers. Let me pay Chris money for the soundtrack. Let's put it on PC and on console, and but let's make it like a 1 or 2 hour experience. And it ended up becoming like a 3 or 4 hour experience. But it became this really great game because we were collaborating. We worked with him on the design. We worked with him on the production and sort of help him tune the game and make it feel really fun. And we're actually very proud of it. It's one of those games that's kind of it's a very silent or quiet game. It doesn't have a loud voice.
Got it. Okay, so you go from Cave Story and Night Sky to what's the next step for you and then your company at this point?
So the next step from there was at that point we had released both games, and we're just looking at the. If you look at the industry now and you look at it 5 years ago, it's changed a ton, and it's changed so much. So we were looking at what's next. PS3 is at the end of its life cycle. What's happening? How can we continue to support WiiWare? What can we look forward to do? And one of an opportunity presented itself where NIS, who's the publisher and developer of a game called Disgaea, we decided to work with them and remake Cave Story as Cave Story 3D. And that was another crazy project because it was a 9 month project from start to finish. And we didn't have 3DS hardware for the first 3 months. So we had to make this game for 3DS as a semi-launch title or launch window. And we had no hardware. So we scraped together a pretty amazing team. Like one of the technical director who continues to be our technical director was the CTO at one of the studios I had previously worked for. The art director was also part of that studio. One of actually two of the artists who worked on that game ended up working for Legend of Korra, the TV show. One of the artists went for Blizzard. So we put together a pretty amazing team. Oh yeah, Tomoko, who was one of our character artists, she worked on Smash Brothers and on Silent Hill. So through all the friends we had, we put together a pretty cool team. We were able to make this game in 9 months, and that was just enough timing, or just enough time to see that everything was going towards developers self-publishing and trying to be, I wouldn't just say more open, but trying to be in as many places as possible, and just have an open mind, and not look at yourself as an independent developer, but look at yourself as an independent publisher.
Got it. Okay. So you're kind of seeing that trend happen as you're living it, as you're I mean at this point you're kind of setting the trend as it's happening. You're doing things that haven't been done in terms of, and I don't know the right word to describe it, but you're taking, Cave Story and then you're remastering it. But it's more than that. How do you describe that? I've never, and same thing that you did with Isaac. How do you describe that? I mean, I guess
With
they're different, each of them are
Yeah,
different.
with the original Cave Story, I almost call it like a deluxe we would say it's like an HD upgrade, even though it really wasn't HD.
Mhm.
And with Isaac, I would say it's a full remake. Like it's a reimagining of the original Isaac with new art, new music, new weapons, a lot more technology behind it. Like if you go back and play the original Flash version, and it's probably been so long for a lot of people, they'll probably forget that you cannot continue a run.
Mhm. Mhm.
You cannot, if you pause your game and there's no option to you can exit, but then there's no continue after you come back, so your run is lost. There's no you can't keep track of a lot of things. So it was a working with Edmund and working with the team and reimagining the game to have it be sort of the definitive or the director's cut in a way.
Got it. And so before we get to the development of Isaac, we're skipping over a couple pretty important titles. Can you talk about how 1001 Spikes came out? Because I know in a way that was kind of like one of your babies. We've talked about that
Yeah.
a little bit. Can you talk about so it goes from developing and I don't want to say, for lack of my lack of knowledge, remastering games and working on helping others publish games to, okay, here's my game, or here's a game I want to develop. How did that go for you in terms of the transition?
During that same time that we started to notice developers, self-publishing, and there was I think at the time there like the companies like Devolver were still a baby. They were still like in their very early phase, but we were already starting to look at games. Although there's 505 and all these companies now publishing tons of games and they do a really good job with it. We were trying to get our feet wet in terms of like, okay, let's look at what's on Steam or what other developers we can work with. And possibly give an enhanced version of their game. And one of those games that we found on, of all places, Xbox 360 indie games, which was almost impossible to find any game. Then we found a game called Thousand Spikes.
Hmm.
And before that, actually, I have to rewind a little bit. We had found a game called Tempura of the Dead, which is a really fun game by the same designer. So we played both games, and of those two games, the one that I thought presented the best opportunity to reimagine it was Thousand Spikes. Um, but the original designer, Samu Sato, who we still actually work with to this day on a lot of projects, he had written the game in something called IG Maker, which stands for indie game, and it's all C sharp based. So you can export the code, but we actually had to remake the game, similar to how we made Isaac. We started you know, all new,
Ground
knew
up.
everything, ground up, and said, okay, so if we're going to start ground up too, then let's add, the original has 30 levels. Let's add over 100 levels. The original has one character. Why don't we start adding more characters and more abilities? And then my kids are responsible for the multiplayer because I thought like, oh, they were watching me play during development and they really wanted to play. And like, okay, this is no fun going back and forth. Why don't we play together? And it was a byproduct of watching New Super Mario Brothers, where finally you could play together at the same time. So there were a lot of things happening all together that helped us put 1001 Spikes into development. And simultaneously, we were working on Rebirth. They both came out the same year. But I almost consider, at least within the company, those two games are almost like siblings because they did help each other in terms of engine. They're both on the same game engine, believe it or not.
Okay. Okay. So you go from 1,001 spikes concurrently. Can you walk us through briefly how you decided to go the Isaac route in terms of how that initially started as an idea, from idea to execution?
Sure.
Because you're I'm guessing at any time, kind of like back at Atlas, your product evaluating a lot of games or looking for games, and then how did it land on Isaac?
It Isaac just came out actually in nowhere. I became friends with Edmund and Tommy. Um, I think it might have been 2008 or 2009, and we might have been introduced actually by Dan Edelman at IGF. We happened to be next to each other in IGF, I think 2008 or 9 when Night Sky was up for the grand prize, and we kind of hit it off. Um, and we always stayed in touch. We would always talk on AIM or now Skype. And I After they released Super Meat Boy, I mean, at one point it was probably like every week. It was almost like a joke, like, oh, let me port Super Meat Boy to some Nintendo platform. And this was after the Wii version had been canceled, and I wanted to put it on new 3DS or 3DS at the time. And Edmund would say no, and I talked to Tommy a lot more frequently, and Tommy would say like, nope, nope, we're done with Super Meat Boy for now. I'm kind of sick of it. I don't want to deal with it. And
Was
it
that
would turn into
baffling to you at all? Was like, like, hey, here's this great game that could reach more people, or did you like, how did you react to that?
Yeah, I was friends with them, so friends first type of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, but I told them, I told Tommy, and I told Edmund, that's no problem, but I'm gonna keep nagging you every quarter, and then eventually became every 6 months, and then I think one of the last times I asked Edmund, I said, come on, talk to Tommy, talk to yourself, figure it out, give me the source code, let me put Super Meat Boy on 3DS, and with I would say with 100% of our games, it's not a monetary reason. It's I want to be involved with these really great games, and I want to put them on consoles and places where I want to play them. So it says, no, you can't do Super Meat Boy, but I'll let you do Isaac if you want. And at the time, I had only played Isaac a few times. Edmund had sent me some pre-release builds, and okay, I saw it as an opportunity to work with him. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll do that. I'll put it on 3DS, and that was the extent of the negotiation. That was the birth of Rebirth, where he said, put you can't have Super Meat Boy, but you can have Isaac. And I said, okay. And the original idea was to do it on 3DS. And as we know, that road was a bit long and drawn out, but that was how we decided to work together. And this must have been in 2011 or 12, I think. And we were secretly working on the game for almost a year, rewriting the game from Flash into C++.
And when you say secretly, was there like like half a dozen people that knew, a dozen people? Did the whole entire company know? Like, how did you keep that quiet for as long as you did?
We even now we don't do it maliciously, but even now somebody might be working on a project, and you can see each other's screens. They're in sort of in a bullpen area, but they don't explicitly tell each other what they're working on, but they don't hide it. So we assigned one person to do a code review, and he said, okay, this code is going to take 6 to 12 months just to translate, just to rewrite it. Um, and then somebody else got started on it. And that was kind of that person, Simon, who would ultimately be the lead programmer on the development of it. That was his thing to do for a while, just sitting there rewriting it, getting it to work. Um, and it took months and months until we had that first build of it running, and it was just Isaac on a screen, and you could move around and you could shoot tiers. But it was so amazing to know, like, oh wow, this is C++. This is on our engine. This is not Flash, and it felt like Isaac. It looked kind of like Isaac. It moved like Isaac. Um, and then eventually, once we got to that point, then we started bringing in more people from the team, and more people from the team, and more people from the team, because it just started to it needed that support from the team to get it done.
Throughout the development of Isaac, what do you feel was the most challenging aspect to the whole process?
I would honestly say the first year of it was the hardest part, because we had to not only did we have to rewrite the code from ActionScript 2 to C++, we also had to make all the tools. So the level editor, the config editor, the animation editor, and all these other tools that we would ultimately need to make Rebirth happen. So the second half of development, it was still a lot of work with all the artwork and adding all the effects and tuning it and optimizing it and porting it. But all the hard work of getting all the tools ready that we needed to develop it were already done.
Got it. And when you have this first build done and you show it to Edmund, and I know you mentioned you had an admiration for him and you wanted to work with him. When it came time to show him that first build, do you remember what it was like? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Can you remember being in that moment when all this, these months of hard work to deliver this prototype? Was he involved prior to that, or was it just like, hey, give me 6 months and then take a look at it?
It was kind of, well, it was give me this time. We'll have a programmer working on it until, because that was a type of situation where it was probably easier to have one person than multiple people programming it, because it could just make a mess. But simultaneously, we had two artists, and very quickly we had three artists working on all the reworking of the artwork, sort of reimagining the game as pixel art. And we started making concepts for it. I would say mock-ups, like pixel mock-ups of the game, to show him, like, okay, this is the style it could be, this is how it could look. So I would say throughout the development, especially of Rebirth, Ed was, not that we weren't excited, but he was almost more excited than us, because he would say it was like he was able to experience his game all over again. Like, oh wow, this is new to me. This is awesome. So I warned him, I think, that first build, and I said, okay, we're going to show you this. It's not a big deal. It's just Isaac on a screen, but it's the new version. I said, don't expect a lot. And he was actually really excited. He was like, oh wow, this is cool. It feels like Isaac. Really nice work. And then the entire time, that was a really fun motivation. I really enjoy, with all the games that we work on, especially the ones where we sort of enhance or remake. I really enjoy getting a positive rise out of the developer who made the game, like whether it's Samu or Terry Kavanagh. I remember I showed Terry Kavanagh VVVVV on a 3DS the first time, and it looked like a little kid playing a really cool new game for the first time. Like, oh, wow. And so we had a lot of that with Edmund during the development of Rebirth, because Rebirth has a lot more new items and new enemies and new art and effects and bosses, and there's a ton more weapon combinations that aren't possible in the original game. So he was seeing, I remember him seeing things, experiencing them for the first time, and it was really great to see him have that sort of surprise and reaction.
That's cool. And for you, I mean, and that was, your whole goal in terms of remastering this and making it, you don't want to say better, but just making a different version of it. And but for you, where did the intrinsic value come from? Was it, the fact that you saw that you had this vision to take, this game and then update it, or was it what did you most enjoy about the entire process? Was it the feedback from Edmund? Where do you get your value from internally from remastering these games and bringing them up into a different light?
I think it's so we started as what I would comfortably say very much porting and then remaking like with Cave Story or Night Sky, and then as we started to do 1001 Spikes and Rebirth, we sort of snuck in full development, and it was really fun to go back into, especially when you're doing stuff like Call of Duty or Metal Gear 5. It's almost like it is development, but it's more like resource management because those games are so massive. But with games that are still the size of 1001 Spikes or of The Binding of Isaac, it's still true development in the sense of like it still feels like you're part of this really cool close team and you're making this thing together. And for me, I think the pleasure for me is both letting more players check out these games that they may never have experienced or won't, um, or and not or, but also in addition to making these developers really happy at being able to see their games go in more places, like having them see like, oh, now you have a game on a Nintendo platform, and 1001 Spikes released last year through a Japanese publisher in Japan, and Samu, the designer and creator, he was so super happy to see it come out in his country in Japanese. Like I think it's like I've told people that 1001 Spikes is the game that I wanted to make since I was a little kid. And obviously, he created it. I worked with him as a co-designer on it. But I really feel, especially for him, it's like if it's a time machine for him to be able to download that game in Japan and have him know that he made that game.
That's cool. That's really exciting, and for you to be able to start as a product evaluator in '93 to now. I mean, it's been a long, but throughout your journey, it sounds like there's a lot of like serendipitous events where it's like because of this happened and this perfectly formed together, and I know there's going to be some people that listen to this or watch this after the fact that are wanting to get into developing their own game or creating their own game. For maybe, the young Tyrone that's living in 2016 that's listening to this right now, what would you tell him or her as to the best way to do that in today's world?
I would say download Unity, Game Maker, Multimedia Fusion. Download whatever you can right now. Like open up a new tab and just download it. Most of these things are free for trial. Just start poking around with them. Don't give up. Don't. It's not something that you can learn overnight, especially if you want to go straight into development. I was lucky that I went a very roundabout way learning about production and learning about testing and evaluation and marketing and PR and editorial, where it eventually culminated into sort of development and publishing. But there's so many amazing tools now that that there is no stopping block. There's nothing that can stop you from making games except yourself. So if you want to make games, just start right away. Pick up a book or just start downloading very basic. If you want to be a programmer, there's so many resources available to you. If you want to be an artist, download Photoshop or start a um, find something that you can draw on. I guess you don't need Photoshop, but just start mastering your craft is the main thing. The problem is people, just like when you work out, you wait for, I'm going to wait until next Monday. And people who say that Monday never comes around, it's like, no, wait until right now. Go do it right now. Go do 20 push-ups and, go do something that gets the routine in place. That's the best thing I could recommend. And find people who are very like-minded, whether it's locally or whether it's online. There's so many resources. If you just do hashtag indie dev on Twitter, you'll find thousands and thousands of people posting things related to independent development or hashtag game dev.
Got it. And then I have one more question before we get to the next segment. Is for you, you've had this long journey, and now you've built this successful development and publishing company. Was there any point when you're like you kind of looked around and were like, all right, this is it. I mean, like, I enjoy where I'm at. This is, it all makes sense. Because you seem like you're a very happy and content individual, and just anyone that talks, we've had a chance to meet and hang out. You seem like a very happy and content individual. Was there a point when you hit it and you're like, all right, this is it? Or is it just kind of become your life?
I think it did become my life, but when the day that Cave Story released, was it March 22nd, 2010, I think. So coming up on what, 6 year anniversary, that day was pretty amazing, and I thought if I can repeat this over and over again, this feeling and and feed my family by doing this, then I should just keep doing this. And I'm very fortunate that all of us, that everyone at Nicholas and all the developers we're working with, we have the ability to do that because before Cave Story, Pixel, the creator of Cave Story, he was literally writing printer drivers at a company, the drivers that run your printer. That was his job, and he made Cave Story in his spare time over 5 years. And now, after me constantly nagging him to death, I told him you should quit your job. You should make games. And years later, now he that's what he's doing. So it gives me great satisfaction to know that it's not just me, that I'm not the only one that gets to live my dream.
That's awesome. That's very cool. All right, Tyrone. So we've had a very in-depth look at your story. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that. We've definitely run over, but we have a few more things before we take a quick break. The next thing I want to go to, and thank you for being so gracious with your time. I know you have a lot of things going on, but I want to jump to the next segment, which is 21 questions.
All right.
And in this segment, I'm going to give you an X and a Y, and you have to pick one. But the key, what I'm looking for here is no thinking. It's just your first reaction. We're looking to get some genuine Tyrone reactions, not that aren't PR'd, that aren't Nintendo PR'd, right, but with your gut reaction. All right, you ready?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
First one, 1001 Spikes or Cave Story?
1001 Spikes.
Pizza or beer?
Pizza.
Kotaku or Polygon?
Kotaku or Polygon?
Yeah.
Oh, Polygon.
Okay. Never being able to tweet GIFs again, or never getting asked about when Afterbirth is coming out for PS4 again?
Oh my gosh. I never. The PS4 one.
Okay. The Witness or Braid?
The Witness.
Okay. Tesla or BMW?
Tesla.
3DS or Vita?
3DS.
YouTube or Twitch?
Twitch.
E3 or PAX?
E3.
Game developer or game publisher?
Game developer.
Okay. Japan or USA?
USA.
Okay. Big Brother mobile game or DDR mobile game?
Big Brother.
Washington or California?
Washington.
Cave Story Plus or The Binding of Isaac Rebirth?
Oh man, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
Okay.
But that's a tough one.
Platformer or RPG?
Platformer.
Okay. Rebirth or Afterbirth?
Afterbirth.
Final Fantasy IV, which I've read is your favorite RPG, or Chrono Trigger?
Still 4.
Okay. Would you rather have a sealed original Transformer toy, we're talking like original OG, or a sealed copy, untouched, of Final Fantasy IV for Super Nintendo?
I would take the Transformer.
Okay. Edmund or Pixel?
Oh my gosh! You're gonna get me killed here. How about a child of both?
Oh, okay. I'm seeing it. Okay, I'll let you slide on that one. Last question: who's the better Rodriguez, Tyrone or Victor?
Victor.
All right. All right, congratulations. You passed the 21 questions. We'll let you bail on the one. Okay, cool. Then before we take a quick break, a few people have sent in, actually a lot of people have sent in voicemail questions for you, but we kind of narrowed it down to the most appropriate. We pulled out the ones that were, maybe a little inappropriate because, the Isaac community is very passionate. But we've narrowed it down to a select few. So we're going to take a couple of voicemail questions for you. Are you concerned about any of these questions? Is there anything that you're hoping not to hear?
Not whatsoever. I'm ready for anything the players have to say.
Okay. All right. Here's this first question is from Austin TP.
Hey, Tyrone. What would your wrestling finishing move be called?
Oh wow. Do I have to pick one from WWF or could it be
It can be whatever you want. If it's a made up one,
the animated GIF?
you are the master of that, by the way.
Thank you.
Your gifts are they get me in trouble with my wife, but anyone that follows you on Twitter knows what I'm talking about. All right, next question is from Damien.
Hey Dan and Tyrone, how's it going? My name's Damien,
Hey,
and
Damien.
sorry if I sound a little congested. I have a sore throat, but I saw Dan's tweet, and I thought it would be cool to ask you guys, as someone who just started Let's Playing 2 months ago, I honestly don't know if you guys watch anybody.
I do.
Um, I don't know if you guys heard of some Northern Lion guy, but what draws you into watching someone's channel, and how could one go about self-promoting themselves? Thanks for your time, guys. Stay classy.
So I guess first question is: do you watch any Twitch streams or YouTube channels with any sort of
I do.
regularity? Okay.
I
Who
do.
who do you watch?
I watch some of your show. I watch Cobalt, the Isaac players, and I try to just do a selection. I try to actually, I do a lot of lurking. I'll actually jump into a lot of the Isaac streams, and people have no idea I'm in there, and I'll just say hello and pop out. But to me, the reason I like talking to you, the reason I like watching your show, I like even Cobalt, although he's a higher level player, it didn't occur to me that until somebody pointed out, it's like you're just hanging out, and if somebody like you can give me that feeling where you're just hanging out, where I'm just hanging out with you, then it's really great. And this is what I don't like about some of the sites who do streaming and some of the sites who they're it's almost I don't mean in a bad way, it's almost like too polished. It feels very much like you're watching TMZ or something, and that's not I don't feel like I'm part of whenever I see their little crappy videos in TMZ. But when I have the sensation that I'm just hanging out with you and you're not explicitly just trying to like show off your game skills or whatever it is, that's what really hooks me into watching players, because I really want to get to know more video game players.
Got it. Okay, cool. And we have, and then his question, he had a question on the tail end, which was how could someone who's starting out maybe grab your attention or self promote in a way that isn't off color or whatnot. Do you have anything? Is there anything that anyone's done in the past that's caught your attention for whatever reason?
I get people that tweeting at me, and if it's not spam, and if they're sort of courteous and respectful to whether it be developers or other or new viewers, I think one of the first things that makes sense is like if somebody follows me, there's a higher chance I will respond and pay attention to what they have to say, because they've given me their time. They've chosen to say I'm gonna follow you. So I feel I should reciprocate that respect. And that's a pretty easy one for me. It's like I'll be on the plane, and a lot of times people try to talk to me, and I have to take my headphones on because they chose to talk to me. And even if I don't want to talk, then I want to be polite, and and I'm glad I've done that in the past, because sometimes you can make new friendships, or you can have a good experience. And I think with people starting new and they're trying to do things like that, I think it just comes down to common sense that sometimes isn't as common on the internet as it should be.
Yeah, that's very well said. All right, and then our last question is from Mikey.
Hey there, boys. I have a question for you, Tyrone. It mostly pertains to your work in The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, and it's a quick one. I just wanted to know, when making the character the Keeper, the newest secret character, was there anything that you and the other heads of Nicholas, or anyone who created the Keeper ARG that went on, was there anything you guys intentionally left out because it was too difficult or too cryptic? Or anything of the sort. I found it was really cool, the alternate reality game. And yeah, I'm just really curious, is there anything you guys left out or intending on maybe even using in future projects for other related things? All right, have a nice day, guys.
Thanks. Good question. So with the ARG, I think it was what Edmund and the rest of the team, we were all after, is doing something really fun. Some fans took it the wrong way. They felt like they were being excluded, but what we wanted to do is include all the fans. It's like there's all these great fans and all these great players, and why don't we do something fun? There's so many developers and mainly big companies, it's almost like we lose sight of we're making video games. We're making, whether you want to call it art, you want to call it toys, whatever you want to call it, we're making something really fun, like something at the end of the day really fun. So with the ARG, Ed was sort of the driving force behind it, and then me and the rest of the team, as well as a few of his friends, gave a lot of input on it. And I think he was able to nail a lot of the ARG as far as he likes a lot of that kind of angle in terms of doing looking at games outside of games. And initially, I thought, wow, this is crazy. People aren't going to get it. And then no, and then he started running ideas behind all of us, and pass this in like, what do you think of this? Is this too hard or is this? And so collectively, we thought like, no, I think it might be. It's one of those things where it might be too difficult for one person, but I think if we kept it at that level, and people were up for it, I think it would be fun to do another one. But it's one of those things like we can't say we're going to do another one because then that would be a spoiler, right?
But I think
So it's never going to happen. Never.
But I think it's interesting you bring up that like this is fun. Like you guys did that, and was like a real life treasure hunt, more or less. It's like Goonies
Yeah,
except
yeah.
real life, and that's fun. And
Yeah.
and I think that's cool to hear from your perspective. Is that like it's not just a game or a business. It's about having fun together as a community, and
Yeah.
it was cool to see. But
We were
confirmed, not
setting up a hotline.
what's that?
We
What
were
did you say?
setting up the hotline, and it reminded me of the old '80s, like the numbers you would call to get a decoder or whatever. And Matthias, he played along and did a great job with the voice. So it was, even for us, it was a lot of fun. And I wasn't there the night that they discovered the figure in that parking lot, but three of our guys from the office were watching them there the whole time. So they were actually Skyping with me because Ed and I were worried that I would get recognized. So they were there in proxy. It was awesome.
And so the three people from your company were there, like typing you guys updates, be like, oh, they're close. They're like,
Yeah, they're texting me pictures that I'm putting on Twitter because, and a few people had some conspiracy theories thinking that I was there and that I took off, but I actually wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't there. I would have liked to have been there.
That's cool. That's really cool to hear the kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, Tyrone and I have gone way over. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to put Tyrone through the Shooting Stars Ultimate Challenge to see how his scores stack up against our previous guests. And then, of course, there's going to be a little surprise twist for Tyrone at the end. But we'll be back in just a few short minutes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and don't go anywhere.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, and we are back with the second half of our show with Tyrone Rodriguez, and we're going to find out exactly. Tyrone said he's a gamer. He said he's been playing games his whole life. We're going to find out exactly how Tyrone stacks up in the Shooting Stars Ultimate Challenge. And first things first, for those of you guys who are familiar with the show, this is our version of American Gladiators. And what that means is Tyrone's going to be playing a series of 3 games, and he's going to get scored in each, and his scores are going to be normalized versus the other guests that have come on the show. And so, Ty, this first game is Quake Live, and I'm going to give you the rules to how this segment of the show works, okay?
All right.
So just so you know, you're competing at the end of Season 1 of Shooting Stars Live. Whoever has the highest point total gets a championship belt, a real physical championship belt. So there's more than pride on the line when you're competing in these games. All right, so our first game is Quake Live, and here's how it breaks down. We're going to play 2 5-minute rounds. You have no penalty whatsoever for deaths, but each kill you get or each frag you get is worth 25 points. So it doesn't matter if you get slaughtered, if you just want to rack up as many kills as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And in this, you're going to be playing, it's an imbalanced game. So you're going to be playing against 2 bots and myself. Okay? Any prediction on how you're going to do in this round of Quake Live?
I think I'm going to shoot a lot and die a lot.
Okay. All right. All right, so what's going to happen is I'm going to start the match up, and then it's going to pause right away because the game won't allow the teams to be imbalanced until it starts. So I'm going to go ahead and it'll pause right away. Okay, and then I'm going to unbalance the teams. For those of you guys that are watching at home, Ty is representing the blue team, and Team Shooting Stars Live is the red team. Tyrone, you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Are you nervous?
I'm not nervous. I'm ready to die.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Have you played a lot of Quake in your day? Were you into Doom or anything like that?
I used to play a lot when I was at. I see what you're doing. You're trying to just trick me right here and distract me. Is that part of the?
No, this is the part where I could ask you off the cuff questions.
Yeah, no. We used to play. Actually, we used to play in my time when I was at Virgin. We used to actually play a lot. Yeah. Oh, damn it. So yeah, we used to play a lot. We played a lot of Doom, but it was. Oh my gosh, you weren't kidding. Yeah, so we played a lot of Doom. Played a lot of Duke Nukem, a lot of Quake.
Okay.
But I think my favorite one was actually of all of them was like Unreal Tournament.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Unreal Tournament.
Did you ever play Heretic or Hexen?
Yeah, I love those. It was really interesting to see sort of the art direction and the different kind of universe that they were going for those games. It was very, I guess at the time it's like everything was a Space Marine and everybody was a bad guy. So to see that was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't want to call it it's not RPG element, but like the medieval type magic world in the first-person shooter was pretty unique back then.
Yeah, kind of like the Tolkien-esque type of universe that they were going for.
Just a quick score update. Ty has 4 kills so far with 340 left in the first round.
Damn it! You got me.
Would you ever consider developing or designing a first-person shooter? Is that?
Oh, I'd love to, but I think that the people that it's just one of those things like you kind of develop your craft, and I think it's one of those things where it would take a long time for us to get nearly as, or not, I wouldn't say even nearly as good as, or remotely as good as other people have gotten at doing this.
Got it.
So I think that's the hardest challenge. Is like, how do you get as good as people who have been making these games for 10 years or however long that they've been making them?
Is there any genre that you want to dive into that you haven't yet in terms of development, or
the RPG would be pretty fun, but it's such a big, crazy amount. Like it's just a big monster, It's like it's a huge undertaking to say like, okay, we're gonna make an RPG now,
Yeah.
So maybe like a little puzzle game or something pretty fun, like something like Puzzle Fighter or something would be a lot of fun.
Are there any titles that you're working on now that haven't been announced or leaked or anything like that?
There's a ton of stuff right now that we're gonna start getting into more publishing and working with developer friends to do more in terms of that. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
Very cool.
But we're also still, aside from Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus and everything, we're still actively looking at doing more of our own development. So it comes down to like just an issue of time, because we want to stay relatively small. Like the team that we have, like we want to have a good, comfortable team that's good at what they do. But to do that, they need to have the right amount of time and the right tools to be able to do it.
And how many people work under Nicholas or work with your company right now?
There's about 15 of us.
Okay.
Like total. So it's not too tiny, but at the same time big enough to do what we need to do. And even though some of those teams like sometimes we'll get together. In the case of something like Rebirth or like with the big game, we will get together to collectively develop. But a lot of times it will be tiny little mini teams of 2-3 people together working to work on a prototype or something to that effect. Oh, look at you taking the high ground.
I was trying to get a cheap kill in there. That's cool. So for you, what's the atmosphere like working at Nicholas? Is it, you can show up wearing whatever you want, whenever you want, and people just get their job done, or what type of environment have you tried to create there for people that work there?
like we don't let a lot of how to put it, we don't let a lot of people, and we don't actively hire, not because we can't, but because we choose not to. So we're very selective of who we hire. It's almost like, could we hang out with you? Could we have a beer, have dinner together? And if so, are you also an amazing developer? And then okay, then we should be working together and making great things together. But we also do fun things like where we hang out together, and we'll do the cliched stuff like do movie nights or whatever. But we also like at the end of this month, the Afterbirth team is actually after we've completely finished submissions for our, is that the clock?
Yeah. So quick recap for Ty. Ty racked up 13 kills in 5 minutes. That's actually pretty respectable. How did you feel like do you feel like you overachieve, underachieve, or hit exactly?
I think under compared to, definitely under.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So we're gonna load up the next map, but so you said that you do certain things like movie nights, and then you were saying something before we.
Oh yeah. So next at the end of this month, we're actually all headed to Japan one more time as sort of a afterbirth celebration for officially having all of it done.
The whole team, or the team that worked on.
Most of the team, is going to be going to Japan, and we'll be there a few days, and it's kind of like a team building company business trip, and we talk about what we're doing next year. But there's also, when you're in a country like that or in a place like that, it's also still fun.
That's really cool. And one of the things we didn't talk about is that you do a tremendous amount of traveling. In particular, I mean, you've been, we'll see your Twitter timeline. You'll be in Japan and then California, and at any point, like, does that take a toll on you, or do you enjoy it, or?
I don't like. I think if you ask the average, like you, like the average traveler, like I don't like being on a plane. I like when I go to necessarily a new place. As my kids have gotten older and more fun, I do kind of miss them, and obviously miss my wife, and I have a third one on the way. So,
congratulations!
Thank you. So there's balances I have to do, but in a way, it's what needs to be done to get the games done and do what we need to do to promote the games and get people to see the games, whether it's E3 or PAX or IGF, wherever it is that we need to go. So it does a little bit, but I've started to, in the last year, I sort of made a rule that I'll be gone for a maximum of like a week and a half per month. And that sounds like a long time, but it's actually not that bad because the other, 2.5 or 3 weeks out of the month, I'm working from home. So I get a lot of family time with my wife and kids where I can just go downstairs and get something to eat or play with them for a few minutes and then come back and do what I need to do.
Got it. Are you able to right click and join?
I did, yeah. It looks like it says awaiting connection, connecting to a bunch of numbers, and then should I escape and try again?
Is it has it been sitting there for a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a number going up. I'll try again.
Yeah, try again. And then for people that don't know, so as much detail as you want to give. So based on where you live and where the studio is, how much time do you? Like, I know you said you work from home, but how often do you pop in the studio?
So that would fall into the I'm talking to them every day over Skype. Like literally, we'll have calls all day long and screen shares to look at what we're all doing. But then I'll go into the office for that week to week and a half. It says you're playing Quake, but I can't join your lobby. You might have to exit out.
Okay, cool. I'll leave and get back in.
You don't want me to show you what's up, do you?
So that week and a half, you're either in the studio or you're traveling, but not both. You're not going to have a week and a half at the studio and then a week and a half traveling.
Right, yeah. So that's kind of the rule I gave myself where, okay, so if I have to go to, on a Japanese business trip, that'll bite into my time.
Got it. Very cool.
Yeah, it's...
All right.
Looks like it says, okay, it looks like I'm awaiting connection and it's connecting to you, so let's see if it works this time.
Okay. Yeah, can you back out and then try now? Because I just restarted the server.
Oh, did you? Okay, hold on. Let me exit out again. I'm rebooting.
No problem. Oops. All right, cool.
I just accidentally saw a glimpse of chat and it said, please don't post a picture of your child's afterbirth like Edmund.
I didn't even know that was a real thing. You know, like I didn't know, and then somehow I saw this image of like this pool of redness that.
Yeah, that was a real thing. Yeah, I definitely don't worry anybody. I definitely won't do that. It'll go to a good place, which is the biohazard bin. It says you're playing Quake Live again. I think you have to exit your lobby again.
Okay, well that's because I'm a complete nub and I had the match set to offline mode. So
That's why I can get in there.
so this is not our first show, but you wouldn't know by how that happened. Big thanks to I have a producer kind of in the background. He just sent me a message like, "Hey Dan, the game's set in offline mode." So Kevin, thank you for that. I appreciate it because I'd be sitting here, what's going on? I don't know. All right, so you should be able to join now.
Okay, now I'm clicking. Let's see what happens now. Oh, look, it worked.
All right.
Through the magic of technology.
Yes, technology and communication. All right, let me go ahead and add these bots in here for you. All right, so
This is trouble. It's been so long since I played Quake, but now that it's on this machine,
if it's in Tyrone's very carefully manicured, curated Steam library, you have to play it now.
I do, yeah. And this is one of those games. This is what I love about like the '90s and early 2000s eras. Like there were so many. This is what I call just an arcade game, and you can just play it for a few minutes and enjoy it. You know.
One of the things we haven't talked a ton about, I didn't ask you, is how much Rebirth / Afterbirth do you actually play, or have you played?
During Rebirth, I probably have over 2,000 hours in it collectively, if that helps.
Wow. Okay.
A lot of it's obviously testing and tuning. I do most of the boss design with one of the programmers, so it that takes up a lot of time. But I do play a lot. If you look at like my Steam achievements, there's no achievements, or not all the achievements, only because I've had to play on like 5 different versions of it. You know, so it adds up pretty quick.
Do you think you could get 1,001%?
Oh yeah.
You think you could? Like if you started from scratch, you think you have the skills to get that done?
Oh yeah. And that's actually one of my when the I'm such a great dad when the baby's born, that'll be probably one of the things I do actually.
Why do you say that when the baby's born?
Oh, because I'm gonna do a little bit of paternity leave, so I'll give myself time. I'll have my laptop next to me, and I'll just have I'll have the baby
Nice.
in the little thingy that you put babies in. What are they called? Cribs? I forget.
I don't know. I'll be regularly contacting you to ask for help because this is your 3rd go around. And
Yeah. It's good though because I have little helpers and stuff. So.
All right, real quick. Ty has racked up 3 kills so far with 4 minutes left. So in this map, Tyrone, traditionally our guests have scored a lot lower because of all the corridors and you know, the first map is a lot more open.
Nice try.
With your when you had your first kid, one of the things I want to ask for sheerly selfish reasons, when you had your first kid, did it affect your game playing habits at all?
No, I mean, I think when I had Miria, or when my wife had Miria, it was it was great. It was like a nice, lovely experience, but it was at first it's just getting acclimated to sort of a different schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Lead lost. Teams.
Oh, that was a cheap shot. Whoever did that. Was that you, Dan?
No, that wasn't me. That might have been Angel. So it was you just kind of adjusted when you played, not how much you played?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, you find a lot of times like, okay, baby and wife are sleeping, like, okay, now's a good time to play. So I'm very much a night person, so it's very much okay, when everybody's sleeping, and it's like I said, when it's dark, my wife doesn't understand why I like to watch movies in the dark. It feels it's more peaceful, and I get a lot of work done at nighttime. So I've come to sort of appreciate a split schedule in terms of, okay, I'll work a normal day, and then I'll break for dinner, and then after dinner I'll help put the kids to sleep or give them a bath or whatever needs to get done, and then after that, then it's either back to work or having time for game. Because fortunately, like I said, since I'm with my wife most of the day, damn you! So close. since I'm with my wife most of the day, it doesn't feel. It's not too bad to. Away from you. Oh.
Is there any games that you associate? Are there any games that associate with like your kids? Like, you know, your first child. Did you play a certain game when they were a baby, or were there go-to infant games that you played?
Night Sky. Miriam really loved Night Sky when she was very small, so that was definitely one of the ones that I kind of think of when I think of like her being a little baby.
Real quick, Ty's got 12. How do you have 12 kills? So with 108 left, Ty's got 12 kills, which is pretty impressive. I'm gonna check the record for this map. We gotta be pretty close to it.
Yeah, I love Quake. Oh, doggy got me.
Teams are tied.
Is that a double kill, or you got me?
No, you didn't get me. Did you see the new Star Wars?
I did. I was able to see the new Star Wars with my brother-in-law. The first day it came out in Japan, and the beauty of that country, you know, I tell people what makes that country great also makes it bad, but in this case it was really great because I bought tickets the day Star Wars was coming out and was able to just reserve my seat. We show up to the movie theater 10 minutes before the movie starts. We have reserved seats, we have our beers in our hand, and we just get to enjoy the movie perfectly.
So there was no waiting around, waiting in line.
And then finally, once I was back in the U.S. with my kids, it's over. You guys beat me.
No, I mean it's not about us beating you. You racked up 13 kills. I'm actually gonna check the. We're gonna back out of Quake Live here, but I'm actually while we're doing that, I'm actually gonna check the high score here. The overall highest score.
Could have had one more.
Oh wow! Oh, this is coming in from the judges. So, the high score in the first map was 27. The high score in the second map was 12. You had 13 kills, Tyrone. You set the new record for the second map. That's pretty impressive. That's
awesome.
That's no joke, man. There's been esports personalities and players that have been on the show, and you just outperformed and set the record on one of them. Nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah, the second map feels a lot more like some of the original Quake maps with the corridors and like so I think that's why I felt more at home. And then I switched to my weapon of choice.
What did you switch to?
Shotgun.
Okay. That is like Doom-esque, you know.
In those corridors, when you can get somebody that's like a sucker punch. You just get one shot. That's it.
All right, so we're gonna switch to our second game, and it's all set up for you to join Tyrone. And while that's loading in, I'm going to explain to you the rules for Brawlhalla. And so for those of you guys that aren't familiar, Brawlhalla is a free-to-play 2D version of Smash Brothers. So it's a similar concept to Smash Brothers, but here's how the rules work for this one, Tyrone. We're going to play 4 3-minute matches. And each of the different matches is a different game mode. I'll explain what each game mode is when we get into it. But the way you score points is for each match win you get, you earn 250 points.
Okay.
So for each 3-minute round, that's the equivalent of getting 10 kills in Quake Live. Make sense?
So it counts a lot.
Yeah.
This is like the makeup test.
Yeah. The stakes definitely rise with each game we play. Cool. So as we load in, so the first match we're gonna play is just a standard timed brawl, in which your objective is just to beat me up and then get me to knock me off. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna go with the pirate.
Where's Captain Falcon?
Did you ever play Smash?
A little bit. Like a few of the guys at the office really love it, but I'm more, like I said, I'm more of a traditional fighting fan. But I appreciate the level of design that goes into Smash. It's got a lot of nuances. But I'm gonna get rocked though for sure.
Are you able to play a game without like game deving it up? Like, can you sit back and enjoy a game, or is it hard for you to turn off that part of your brain?
The simpler the game, the easier it is. So like if it's like a one game mechanic, like something like Crossy Road or like Pac-Man 256, it makes it much easier to appreciate what's going on, you know.
So like something like this, because I mean, I know you just installed this. We played a little bit before the show. Like something like this, are you able to just enjoy? Or are you thinking like, oh, I like this mechanic, I would change this up? Or
when I'm competing, fortunately, since we're competing against each other, like I'm not that competitive, but by nature, I want to try to win. So that makes it a little bit easier to say like, oh, okay. And then afterwards, like, oh man, I should have done this or whatever it is.
And real quick, Tyrone is the girl with the red hair and the massive freaking hammer. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. All right, so Tyrone just took a 2 to -1 lead. So if you get knocked off, you get minus point, and if you knock someone off, you get +2. So right now it ties up 2 to -1, which means I gotta get it.
No! Nice try.
Ty, usually it takes someone a little bit to warm up. There's no warm up with you. I mean, you're already into this, unless you practice this more than you said you did.
No. That was when I booted it up with you before the show. Oh no! Gotta block.
There we go. Sword. I keep getting these longer melee weapons. So 2:27 left on the clock, ties up 2 to -1, 250 points on the line. Ty had a pretty, I didn't check your overall score, but I think you had a pretty good showing with your combined Quake score.
This weapon's iffy.
So you mentioned your,
No!
did I get him? You mentioned you're a big Street Fighter fan, I got you. You still up, how are you up 3-0 though? You're up 3-0. You mentioned you're a big Street Fighter fan. Who's your favorite character in Street Fighter?
To play or to sort of like design wise, like character, like art design wise. Like I think to play as Cammy usually she's a lot of fun. But I like the goofy characters like the Hondas and the Balrogs and characters like that. They're just, it gets old after a while. There's like Hadouken, you know. No! Gosh, you really want to knock me off, don't you?
So 120, Tyrone's up 3-0. I'm gonna have to knock him off twice. I don't know how you got that extra point. Oh, so we both got.
Oh shit.
Ties up 2 to -1 still. So when Street Fighter first came out, did you have a go-to like?
Yeah, when Street Fighter 2, the original came out, I think I was trying to learn Honda.
Okay.
And I really liked Honda because it was like at the time he wasn't very popular and people thought, oh, it's just a stupid fat guy. Like, how good could he be?
Yeah. Were you a console Street Fighter, or would you go to the arcade and like try to show, like, would you test off your skills against other people?
I wasn't, you know, I played a lot in the arcade, but oddly enough, Street Fighter 2 was my first NES game, and I had Street Fighter 2 a week before I had my NES. It was pretty funny. I was so excited about it that I bought the game, and then I had enough money saved up for the NES. Or, sorry, Super NES.
Super Nintendo. Oh.
Yeah.
Did you ever look back? So 9 seconds left, ties up 4 to -2. You got this thing. Do you ever look back at that, at the Super Nintendo era, and think of not the golden age of gaming, but do you look back at any of those eras and think, congratulations, by the way, you won that first round, and like appreciate it on a different level, or think that like things were better back then, or do you not look at it like that?
Some people might chalk it up to nostalgia, but I like how games were simpler back then and how the industry was simpler and more pure. Like, it wasn't, I don't think they had figured out that they would be making a ton of money. Like, all these giant companies would effectively be giant. So that's kind of what I miss. And it's not just because I was a kid. It was noticeable. It was a very palpable feeling where it was like, you know, there weren't pre-orders and all these things that were trying to goad you into buying games.
Got it. Okay, so so this game is called Brawl Ball, and the way this one works is there's going to be like a golden football in the middle of the field, and it's your job to pick that up. You can't pick it up while holding a weapon. You have to pick that up and then run it into my red zone.
Oh, okay. So it's like football.
Yeah, and you can run through your blue wall, but you can't run through my red wall. Does that make sense? You got to go up and over here.
How do I pick that up?
So you need to chuck your weapon. Are you on your gamepad?
Yeah.
Okay, so
there's
use right button or right button. Chuck it. There you
Okay,
go.
there it goes. Okay, thanks.
It's only fair. It's only fair.
Oh wait, that's a wall.
Yeah. So on your
Oh,
own
okay.
you can run through it, but on your opponents you have to go up and over.
Oh, even. Oh no! Here it comes. Damn it!
All right. There you go. So it's 1-0. So 2:30 left to play, and you start with the ball here.
All right. There's actually a disadvantage.
What do you think? Starting all the way back there. Oh. I see what you're trying to do there.
Oh my gosh!
Get in there. All right. All right. So 2 minutes left. I'm up 2-0 here.
Somebody played football in high school.
There we go. Get up. All right.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not.
Getting
Ty, you whooped me in the
destroyed.
first. I mean, it wasn't even the first match. Wasn't even close. I gotta give you everything I got here. I don't think there's no penalty if I knock you off here. No, no.
Why did? Ah!
Give me the ball. Let's go. There we go. Go.
Oh my gosh!
There. Are there any, were you ever in any sports games? Or did you ever like into any sports games at all?
I mean, I played when I was in high school. I played soccer and basketball and stuff like that. But I think. Oh gosh!
I meant like sports video games. Did you ever get
Oh
into-
yeah, actually, I used to love John Madden football. Gosh!
Oh!
No!
Oh, what? What? Oh, there you go. All right.
Finally.
4 to 1.
Mercy.
It's 4-1 with 35 seconds left.
That's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna try the tie strat. No one's tried that yet to actually try and chuck the ball and get to where you needed to go.
Shit! This is it's 250, right? No matter what happens, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there's still 2 more rounds. So honestly, I think you probably got to win 3 out of 4 to have a shot at the title. Which, there you go. All right, 5-2-7 seconds left. But I think the other ones are gonna favor your style of gameplay, where they're not as like, you know, football oriented. All right, so 5-2. Ty doesn't pull off the second round. The next game mode is called Bomb Skitball, and the way this one is set up is there's bombs on the map, and you have to pick it up and throw it at my target. It's a lot harder than it sounds because the throwing mechanics a little bit, you got to get used to it. But there'll be 3 bombs on the map. It doesn't matter if you knock me off. You just have to hit my target with the bombs on the map.
Okay.
I'm going to give a quick score update here for Tyrone. So Tyrone scored 650 in the first round, and he's got 250, so you got a total of 900 points going into this next round. All right, did you pick your guy?
Yeah. I'm switching it up.
All right, so you went with Bryn. Okay. 2 female characters. Who were you last round? Were you
I was the brunette.
brunette? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm actually just looking at their stats.
Oh, okay.
So I need the bomb?
Yes.
So that was a block, right?
Yeah. So there's no. If you die, it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of trying to.
Oh.
There we go. So at any point there should be. Nice. Okay. So ties up 1-0. All right. So you got the hang of it. You can also hit a bounce shot, but it's a little No. It's a little finicky. There we go. Oh, nice shot.
Oh, my bomb!
Did you ever play NBA Jam as a kid?
Oh yeah, I love NBA Jam.
I always felt like that was, oh God, whether you like basketball or not, I always felt like that was a, wow, you're killing me. Ties up 3-0. I got it. 4-0. All right. There we go. 4-1. We got on the board here. No. Wow. 6-1. I got to step up. There's a very cheap strat that you can do, but the community has decided that unless the guest on the show starts using it, that it's unacceptable to use. So I'm not going to use it. But Ty's killing me here, 7-1. Wow, minute 30 left. This is, I don't think I've ever got embarrassed in this match before. 8-1. Wow. Ty's, I'm not even like padding stats or blowing smoke. So far, in terms of being a well-rounded, skilled video game player, you're right there. I mean, there's been people who have been really good at Quake, but awful at this. But we haven't really had anyone on the show that's really competitive at both. And I'm guessing by you not talking a lot, you're focused a lot on this one.
Yeah, I was just intently listening.
Yeah. Ties up 9-3, by the way. 45 seconds left to go.
You could still get it.
Man, I can't hit that.
I can't hit this one either, but I can hit that one.
10-3. This, come on, I gotta get in there.
Oh yeah, 2. That's great.
There we go. All right, so 11-4, 20 seconds left. Come on, get in. There we go. Oh no! Insult to injury. Wow. 9 seconds left. Ties up 13-5. That's the strat. You figured it out.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, you either go right above or below it. Nice. Wow. I got destroyed. Ty won that round 14-5. Nicely done, Ty. Did you sandbag the last round or what?
No, it was just a different kind of game. The wall was killing me. Like yeah.
The
your like end zone wall.
Yeah.
It's kind of threw my whole game off it because I tried to walk to it, and after that I think it just kind of shook me up.
Got it. Okay, so this is the last round of Brawlhalla. This game's called Snow Brawl, and this one favors the spammer. So basically what it is, you start with an unlimited amount of snowballs, so they respawn in your hand, and your goal is just to tag me as many times with the snowball. So it takes like the throwing mechanic, and they're just trying to tag me. You do get extra points if you knock me off, though. But you get 1 point per snowball hit, if that makes sense. All right, cool.
This is a pretty fun game. I can't believe no one's ever told me about this.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I mentioned this offline with you. It's free to play, and the microtransactions are all cosmetic. So you can pick this up, play it, and not spend a dime, and have fun with it.
Yeah, it was really good. And the art's really nice. It looks like it's a very well polished game, and it says beta, so it's considered not done yet.
Yeah, I don't.
So I just.
Yeah, so you just want to spam attack. I mean, you don't have to spam attacks, but that's what I do. I just started because I hear the you're destroying your controller.
I do what I can,
All right, it's 9-7 right now. Ties up to.
Oh, nice one. You got a combo there. Huh? Oh.
All right.
I think you're up now.
Yeah, it's 10-9. 2:20 left to go. I don't even know that I could spam as fast as you were doing. All right, 15-9 here. Usually this score ends up in the 30s somewhere.
You can hear the clicky.
Yeah, I just haven't heard that since I was a kid, like someone mutilating their controller. All right, so it's 18-11 right now, 19-11 with 1:59 on the clock. This is a big round for Ty.
Oh, whoa, the snowballs don't destroy each other.
25-12. All right. Oh, nice. Chat's railing behind you, Ty. I've seen a lot of go, Ty, go.
Oh, good. I'm going to try just for you, chat.
Shut down.
27-18, minute 30 left to go. I'm going to try the tie strip.
It works really well. You just got to... Hopefully your thumb doesn't get too tired.
No. 29-20, minute 15 left. No, get up. Oh.
So do you lose points for that?
Yeah,
or
if you fall off. So it's 25-20. 1:11 left. All right, I got to play a little defensive.
Oh, gosh.
All right, 30-20. Got a little breathing room. About a minute 2 left to go in this round. Come on. No.
Yes.
24-31. 45 seconds left.
Could be. So there's a big advantage in this game strategically to being on the bottom, huh?
I don't know.
Oh!
No. No. Come on.
Saved it.
34-29, 27 seconds left. Come on, tag him.
Oh! Come on.
No.
Yes!
No.
Dominating.
It's 35, 15 seconds left. Come on.
Come
8, 7. No. What? Hold on.
Forgive me. I'll take forgive me.
3,
No.
2, 1.
Oh. All right. Gosh.
Blue team
I
wins.
think you gave that one to me, but I'll take it.
I didn't Ty. I'm not one to lay down. What? Nicely done. So Ty pulls off the. You won 3 out of 4 there. Tyrone, what are your thoughts on your performance in Brawlhalla here?
It was a lot of fun. I like it.
What about your performance specifically?
I think I could have done better in the football game, but I started. I could see as I started to play, I could see me understanding the game a little bit better.
Okay. All right. So one of the things we didn't talk about prior to bringing you on the show was what the third game was. Okay.
Oh.
And it's a game we like to play around here. We save it for the end. It's a game we like to call Your Life According to Others. Okay? And the way this works is there's 8 questions. And I asked someone that you know prior to the show. I had a chat with them on Skype. And I asked them 8 questions about you. And so it's your job to answer the question correctly. So, for example, I'd say, hey, what's Tyrone's favorite flavor of ice cream? And the guest would say, hey, Tyrone's favorite ice cream is this. So but here's the deal. You have 8 questions. For each correct answer you get is 500 points.
Oh boy.
So it's a tough game, but it's rewarding if you get the points you need. Make sense?
Yeah. Oh man.
Are you nervous at all?
Now I am.
Okay. So prior to bringing you on the show,
when it relied on this, I was all right.
So prior to bringing you on the show, I had a conversation with your brother Victor. Okay.
Oh no.
So before we get into the questions, you want to tell us a little bit about your relationship? I guess working relationship with your brother and his role within the company, so people would know what he is besides being your best pal growing up and everything in between.
Yeah. So Victor is one of my best friends in the world, and I've known him since I was born. He's only known me since he was 9. But if I'm kind of the wacky, kind of impulsive one, he's a very calm, very by the book, everything organized, super ready. Like if something's due on January 1st, he'll have it ready on December 1st. But he's kind of like, he's the executive producer at Nicholas, and he's the CEO, where I'm the producer, sort of designer-y guy, president. And he helps make sure everything's running properly because he has a ton of experience from working at Fox and working at the Collective. He also worked at Konami and all these larger companies where he was running a lot of people. So he makes sure the company's running properly.
Got it. And who's better at video games, you or Victor?
I'm better at non-sports video games, and then if it comes down to sports, he will completely destroy me.
Okay, you ready to play your life according to others?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
here we go. All right, so the first question I asked your brother Victor, who's awesome, by the way. What a good dude. I asked him, I said, Victor, if you had to compare Tyrone to a celebrity look-alike, who would it be?
Oh man, I would say, oh man, it's tough. Just have to. Billy D. Williams, no. I don't know. John Leguizamo. Who knows?
Okay. All right, John Leguizamo, is that your final answer?
I think it's my. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, final answer locked in. When we asked Victor Rodriguez who he thought his brother Tyrone's celebrity look-alike was, this is what he said.
If I was to compare Tyrone to a celebrity, the long lost twin brother of Chuck Norris from a Mexican mother.
I'll take Chuck Norris. I like his answer better than mine.
All right. So Tyrone said John Leguizamo, which I could see that. Your brother said Chuck Norris, so our judge says that is not a match. But the good news is for you have 7 more opportunities
Man,
to
if
get.
that's what I can expect from his answer, this is just a 0.
All right. Next question is I asked your brother if Tyrone could only would have to play one game the rest of his life. There is no Steam library. You don't have any choices. You have one choice to play one game the rest of your life. What did Victor say that game would be?
I hope he said Street Fighter.
Okay. Street Fighter, final answer?
Yeah.
Okay. When Victor was asked what one game Tyrone would play for the rest of his life, this is what he said.
If Tyrone was limited to one game the whole entire life, I would probably say Zelda.
Oh, that was the next. That's the other one. He was right too. It's like those are my 2 favorite games.
Oh, so
Oh.
was that that would have been your backup answer?
No, they were literally like it was one or the other. It was not even a backup. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Tyrone, so 2 down, 6 more to go. Next question is what I asked Victor, what is the most annoying thing that you have done or that you do? What do you think your brother said?
Don't pick up my phone.
What's that?
I don't pick up my phone.
Don't pick up your phone. Final answer?
Final answer, yeah.
All
That
right.
drives me very crazy.
When Victor was asked what is the most annoying thing that Tyrone does, here's what he said.
The most annoying thing Tyrone does is get me see, wait a minute, there's so many things. Oh, I know one. I know one perfect one. He'll get right next to you and he will fart.
That was the other thing.
So is this something that happens at Nicholas? You'll just walk up to one of your employees and just get real close to him and then take care of business? Or is that just with your brother?
No, that's with everybody, yeah.
All right.
That's why I love that. That's why I love that fart gun at Target from what is it? Minions or whatever that movie is, Despicable Me.
All right. We're gonna go next question.
He's ruining me.
Your score was right there until we got to this point, but you still got 5 more questions to go. Next question. When I asked your brother, Victor, what is the nicest thing you've ever done for him? What do you think he said?
Oh man, that's really tough. I don't do nice things for him. I got him a pair of shoes once. Shoes.
Okay, you got him a pair of shoes?
Yeah.
That's the final answer. Nicest thing you ever done for your brother's got him a pair of shoes. All
Yeah.
right. When we asked Victor what the nicest thing Tyrone has ever done for him, this is what he said.
What is the nicest thing Tyrone has done for me? Being my best friend.
Shit.
Aww. That just warms your heart. You're talking about shoes, and Victor's like, yeah, we've been best friends our whole life. What kind of shoes did you get him?
Some Adidas. Not even anything fancy.
All right. Next question is, if Victor were to give you a superhero power, okay, or if you were to have a superhero power, what do you think Victor would say that you would want?
I would want to be able to make other people fart on my command.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right. When Victor was asked what superpower he thought Tyrone would want, or that he would give Tyrone, this is what he said.
What superpower would I give Tyrone? Let me see. Superpower and why? I would say talk more. The reason being is because he's really quiet.
Come on, I told you. I told everybody. This is my superpower I would want.
He said talk more. He mentioned that you're kind of an introvert.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So you like,
Very much.
because when we've talked and on the show, you're great. And when I've met you in person, are you better in like small settings, or you prefer?
Yeah,
small?
small's good. Yeah, small's good. The bigger the gets, the worse is. Man.
Okay. What do you think of the superpower of talking more? Where do you rate that in the ladder of best superpowers?
That's talking less would be better.
All right.
Damn it.
Next question we asked your brother is, what is the most embarrassing thing you know about Tyrone? Most embarrassing thing or most embarrassing story?
Well, see, if I say that, then I'm letting out my most embarrassing moment in my life. That's a catch-22.
That's why it's great, because normally we get two good stories.
There's so many. See, the time I left a pair of underwear in Spain because I sharted. The time I passed out. Oh, maybe the time I drank too much at a Sony E3 party and then I woke up in the hospital. That one's pretty good. Oh, you just let it go.
Must have been a hell of a party. All right, is that your final answer?
I guess so. There's so many.
Okay, getting drunk at E3. When we asked Victor what's the most embarrassing thing or story he knows about Tyrone, here's what he said.
What is the most embarrassing story about Tyrone? There are so many to cover. It's not even
So
funny.
many.
The one thing I can remember is one time, I guess, him and his buddies went to Vegas. And at the time, he had a little small Nissan Sentra. And there were so many people that he ended up riding in the trunk. So I don't know if he got to enjoy Vegas or not, but he was in the
That's
trunk.
not embarrassing. I was proud of that. I went with Alex Valle, who's a Street Fighter, like a super god to that community, and we went to Evo before it was called Evo, and everybody wanted to ride, but I had a little Sentra, the Sentra I mentioned that I took in the Tips and Tricks era, and everybody wanted to ride, but nobody wanted to pay for a taxi. So I said, if you can fit in the car, I'll give you a ride, and I went in the trunk. But I'm proud of that one.
Wait, what Sony event? What game were they promoting that you just got bombed that you woke up in the hospital?
Oh, this was E3 of 2002 or something, and they just had an open bar, and you open bar in your early 20s. It's the worst possible combination.
What's your drink of choice when you're out, Tyrone?
If I'm by myself, it'd be a Long Island, no triple sec, add peach schnapps, and then if I'm with people so I can get them drunk, it's a 151.
Okay. Yeah, that was like, there was no delay in that. Like you went like, when it's in your shelf, it's your go-to. All right, we're gonna go to the next question. We asked Victor what he thought you'd be doing at 80 years old. What do you think he said? So what do you think Victor said you'd be doing when you're 80 years old?
If I'm still alive, I'll still be making games.
Okay.
Still making games.
Still making games, final answer.
Yeah, I keep wanting to pick the second thing I think of because that's probably the right one, but we're gonna stick with that one.
All right, so we'll lock in making games. What's the second thing that you
driving
think?
race cars?
Driving race cars. Okay. When we asked Victor what he thinks his brother Tyrone will be doing at 80 years of age, here's what he said.
What would Tyrone be doing when he's 80 and why? Picking his nose because it's fun?
He totally sabotaged me. He didn't give you one real answer this whole time.
We try to break up families here on the show. That's what we try to do. because you were in position to be the number one spot on the leaderboard and possibly have a shot at this championship belt. But we still have one question,
It's always
Tyrone.
2017.
All right, last question. We asked Victor to describe you in one word. What one word do you think he said?
Gaseous.
Gaseous. Final answer?
Final answer.
What's your secondary answer?
Nice.
Nice. Okay. When we asked Victor to describe his brother Tyrone in one word, here's what Victor said.
If I was to describe Tyrone in one word, I would say sincere.
See, the second one was closer.
His answers were all over the place. That's what made it great. Some were serious, some were.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
final thoughts on how well you think you know yourself through your brother.
I think I expected this 100%, so expect the unexpected.
All right. All right, just to give you an update on where you land in the all-time leaderboard for Season 1, the last place, which is Mathis Games, scored 1,275 points. Okay, you scored 1,400 points, and you didn't get any points in the last round, so you are in the second to last spot. However, I believe some of that is to blame on Victor, because you were in position. You were in the driver's seat. You were in the driver's seat. But,
So where am I if there was no my life?
if there was no My Life, let's go ahead and you would be. So you had 1,400 points going in. You would have been in second place, only second to our professional Halo player who won a gold medal at the X Games. So you would have been right underneath him and not by much.
I'll take that.
Okay, yeah. but you can't. You're not walking away without any records. You set the single best record in the second map of Quake Live, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say no one's going to touch that because you beat Eric Rona, who was the professional Halo player at that map. So
Awesome.
you were landed on the moon, and the Tyrone flag is going to be waving there for a long time, I think. But Tyrone, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. Right now, people can follow you on twitter.com/Tyrone Rodriguez or on your Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Tyrone Rodriguez. Will you tell people more about what they can expect from you and where they can follow you and what, if someone follows you, what to expect?
A lot of animated GIFs of very appropriate and inappropriate and random things from the far reaches of the internet. Updates from development for The Binding of Isaac, random thoughts of the cave story or anything else we worked on. And if you follow me and you are a nice person and you have a question, I'll hopefully make time to answer you when I see your question. So I like interacting with people that follow me. It's a lot of fun. I like making friends. If you're at E3 or GDC or PAX or any event and you see me, please do say hi. I don't bite. I try to be really nice. Sometimes I have stickers to give out.
Awesome. What's your next con you're planning on attending for people to accost you at?
I might be at GDC for half a day. That's TBD because we'll be in Japan right after that. And then following that, we'll do the typical summer stuff, which will be E3, probably Indiecade, PAX Prime. And hopefully you make it out this year to PAX Prime and we have some stuff to show you. We'll have another, hopefully we can get another suite with beer and pizza. And I won't leave it in the closet this time.
Awesome. And one final question on your Twitter image. It's a picture of you with or the picture we have for you is a picture with you and some like safety goggles on over your glasses. Where were you at in that picture?
I was at the Attack and one of the hosts dressed up as Alex dressed up as Isaac, and he was walking over the plank, and we were throwing balls and tennis balls and paintballs at him, the poor guy. Trooper.
Well, go ahead and make sure you follow Tyrone on Twitter and check out his Twitch channel. And of course, you guys know his storied history and all the great games he's producing and developing. I'm sure he's got a few under wraps that he's not sharing with us yet. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And Tyrone, I can't thank you enough for being so generous with your time and coming on and sharing your story. It's been an absolute blast. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dan, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. We'll have to, like I said, we'll have to meet up sooner than later.
Sounds good. Ty,
Good
thanks
luck
so
with
much.
the baby.
Thanks so much. You too. We'll be in touch about that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys so
Dan.
much for coming on the show. If you guys enjoyed the show, we go live every Wednesday. Shooting Stars Live here at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you guys enjoy the channel, I encourage you guys to hit the follow button. But have a great evening. And Tyrone, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.